I finally finished crafting my full set of thunder armor. The thunder armor boosts my lightning magic by 30% and speeds up how magic flows through my body. The thunder boots increase lightning power by 20% and come with a skill called Thunder Step. Twice a day, I can move 300% faster for 3 minutes. The thunder helmet gives a huge 50% boost to lightning magic and some mental resistance. The thunder bracers add 30% lightning power and have a skill called Giant Strength that doubles my physical power for 10 minutes once a day. The thunder belt adds 20% to my magic, and the thunder necklace stores a ton of lightning magic that refills my energy when I run low. With all of it on, I looked like a knight straight out of a legend. The only thing missing was a war horse. Since the upcoming tournament lets every class use their full advantages, I decided to buy a mount. I had about 270,000 points saved up from selling weapons, though I hadn't been focused on forging lately, so it wasn't as much as it could have been. I headed to the shop, where Stasi greeted me right away. She noticed my badge had changed to an Earl's crest. I brushed it off, just leveled up accidentally. I asked about mounts, and she told me that as an Earl, I get a 10% discount at their store. She showed me the adult magic beasts first, mostly horse types. A lot of them seemed drawn to me, probably sensing my strength. After looking around, one caught my eye, a silver-haired horse with a blue tuft on its head. Stasi explained it was a thunder war horse, still not fully grown. Currently a Tier 3 beast that could reach Tier 4 as an adult, maybe even Tier 5 if it's talented. It matched my lightning element perfectly. The price was 50,000 points, or 45,000 with my discount. I checked out other beasts and some magic beast eggs too, but nothing beat the Thunder Warhorse, so I bought it. The horse stood over 4 meters tall, and it wasn't even fully grown yet. When I jumped on its back, it immediately tried to throw me off, bucking wildly. A normal person would have had their bones shattered just from the shaking, but I held the reins tight and stayed on. It bolted across the open field, but the space was big enough that we didn't crash into anything. Stasi just watched and smiled, clearly used to seeing this. These beasts only respect the strong. You have to prove yourself to earn their loyalty. I grabbed the reins and pulled hard. The Thunder Warhorse, which had been charging wildly just a second ago, stopped dead in its tracks. I could see every muscle in its body straining to keep moving forward, but my strength held it completely still. After all the training I'd been doing, my stats had gone up a lot. Honestly, if I fought that hell demon wolf again, I could beat it to death with my bare fists. Then I squeezed my legs around its sides. The force was so strong the horse nearly collapsed. I held back just in time. Any more, and I might have seriously hurt it. After that, it calmed right down. I rode it around the field once, and just like that, it was tamed. It was almost too easy to feel satisfying. I couldn't ride the horse inside the church grounds except in special areas, so I led it away on foot. Over the next few days, I worked on building a bond with the Thunder Warhorse and got much better at riding. By the day before the tournament, my stats had grown again. 154 strength, 126 agility, 154 constitution, 134 spirit. My lightning talent had reached 11, and I'd picked up points in wind, hammer technique, and more. The tournament rules were pretty straightforward. First round was a 10-person free-for-all. Only the top 2 from each group advance. After that, it's random one-on-one brackets, single elimination. Lose once and you're out. It seemed harsh, but I thought it made sense. After this tournament, we wouldn't be rookies anymore. We'd be going on real missions and fighting real battles where nobody cares about fairness. Not everyone agreed. Saintess Xingxin was furious. She thought she deserved a special pass straight to the finals. In her mind, she shouldn't have to compete alongside commoners. She looked disgusted the whole time. About 1,000 people entered the tournament, all at least knight rank or above. The Pope himself showed up for the drawing, supposedly because the Saintess was competing, though I knew he was really there to watch me. I drew arena number 56. I wondered which 9 unlucky people ended up in my group. Xingxin got arena number 1, which seemed deliberately arranged. And by coincidence, Saga, my friend, also drew arena 1. When Xingxin noticed Saga, she stared her down with an ice-cold look. She didn't care about Saga's talent. She only remembered Saga because she knew Saga was close to me. "Do you know Clan?" Xingxin asked before the match even started. Saga hesitated, but nodded. She didn't deny our friendship. Xingxin said nothing more, just kept glaring at Saga like she wanted to eat her alive. Saga was scared, but she glared right back. When the match began, Shengxin charged straight at Saga. Saga reacted fast, activating her wing transformation to boost her speed. She was smart. She knew Shengxin would come after her, so her plan was to eliminate as many other fighters as possible before Shengxin could take her out. That was her only shot at advancing. The other 8 fighters saw the 2 strongest going at each other and scattered in relief. The other 8 fighters in Arena 1 just stood back and waited for Shengxin to beat Saga. Shengxin didn't even use her Angel Soul ability. She was already level 36, which was even higher than me. She had tons of resources and all the time in the world to train, since she didn't have to do things like blacksmithing. If I hadn't injured her before and forced her to rest, she'd be even stronger. Saga managed to spear through one opponent's stomach, taking him out. But at the same time, Shengxin slammed into Saga's back. I could hear bones cracking in Saga's wings. Before Saga could even scream, Shengxin grabbed her by the hair and started slapping her face over and over. "You worthless trash. How dare you be friends with Clan? I'll teach you your place." She kept hitting her until Saga's face was swollen and bloody. The Pope watched with a cold expression. He already knew what kind of person Shengxin was, but seeing it still made him furious. He signaled someone nearby, and that person rushed in to pull the unconscious Saga away from Shengxin. Shengxin almost lashed out again, but then she felt the Pope's icy stare. She understood his message. She'd gone too far and was making the church look bad. But she didn't care. In her mind, she was second only to the Pope, and everyone else existed to serve her. She told herself that once she became Pope someday, she'd do whatever she wanted. She took her anger out on the remaining fighters instead. She activated her Angel Soul. A massive 5-meter angel appeared behind her, and with one strike, she blasted every remaining fighter off the stage. They were all badly hurt. The rules clearly said no killing, but she didn't seem to care. The Pope's face grew even darker. The fighters survived, but they'd carry permanent damage. Over at my arena, number 56, things went very differently. When the match started, all 9 opponents fought each other, and nobody came near me. They either knew my reputation or saw the Earl badge on my chest, and decided they'd be idiots to challenge me. I found it a little funny, but I still needed eliminations to advance. So I moved. Without even activating my lightning body, I was fast enough that nobody could track me. I knocked out every opponent with the flat of my sword. 1 hit each, clean and quick. The whole thing took less than a minute. The Pope saw my fight too. Compared to what Shengxin did, I looked like a saint. These people just came here hoping to win some training resources. There was no reason to cripple them permanently. After my match, I went to the rest area. That's when Shengxin walked over to me with a nasty smile on her face. "You know that worthless girl named Saga, right?" That got my attention immediately. Something was wrong. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing much. Just taught her a little lesson." She burst out laughing like a maniac. I looked around and spotted Saga nearby, being treated by medics. Her back was covered in blood. Her face was swollen beyond recognition, covered in handprints, with blood still dripping from her mouth. It was horrible. When I saw that, something inside me went cold. Every emotion drained from my eyes. I looked at Shengxin the way you'd look at a dead person. She thought that was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. She doubled over laughing. "Look at your face. You look like a clown." "Keep making that face forever." Shengxin had no idea how angry I was. She kept going, laughing about how stupid Saga was for admitting she knew me even though she knew it would make Shengxin target her. Then her laughter stopped, because I slapped her across the face. She went into a rage instantly. Her Angel Soul activated, and the massive 5-meter angel shadow appeared behind her. The pressure was intense, and everyone around us backed away. I drew my sword, Lightning Fong, and activated my lightning body. We were about to fight right there, but then the Pope appeared between us. His magic was soft but overwhelming. It locked both of us in place immediately. Neither of us could keep fighting in front of him. "You think this is a playground? If you want to fight, do it on the stage," he said coldly. Shengxin tried to argue. "He hit me first," but the Pope cut her off. "I said this ends now." He walked away without another word. Shengxin was furious. She thought the Pope was being unfair, clearly taking my side. And honestly, she wasn't wrong. I was the one who actually hit her, so technically I should have been punished. but the Pope let it slide completely. Turns out he actually liked what I did, standing up for a friend, even if it meant breaking the rules. It made him see me as someone with loyalty, the kind of person fit to be a future Pope candidate. The free-for-all rounds wrapped up in about 3 hours. The top 200 advanced. Saga could have made it. She'd taken out one opponent before Xingxin attacked her, but her injuries were too serious to continue. Winnie and Gato both made it through with some luck. For the second round, I drew number 72. When I stepped onto the stage, my opponent immediately shouted, "I surrender." I looked at him, a bit helpless, but he was firm about it. He knew he had no chance. The same thing happened to Xingxin. Her opponents were too scared to fight her after what she'd done. Through the rounds of 100, then 50, then 25, every one of my opponents surrendered without fighting. Same for Xingxin. Finally, at the top 25 round, I actually got an opponent who didn't quit, Cilia. She glared at me and said, "I told you we'd meet again. This time I'll beat you." I stared at her, genuinely confused. Who was this person? She realized I'd completely forgotten her and lost her temper. The second the match started, she charged at me and swung her sword. It was a clean, smooth strike. I casually swung back. Her sword flew out of her hands, and her arms were shaking from the impact. I put my blade to her neck. "Do you see the gap between us now?" She went silent, then dropped to her knees. I surrender. Then came the top 13 round, and I saw my next opponent, Xingxin. When she saw it was me, her eyes lit up with fire. She'd been waiting for this. We stepped onto the stage and drew everyone's attention. People in the crowd were whispering. Most of them were hoping I'd win, not because I was amazing, but because Xingxin was so hated. Her cruelty was well known, and almost nobody in the church liked her. The Pope heard it all and was pleased. The more the people supported me over her, the easier it would be to put me in a leadership position someday. The referees saw that we were both ready. Begin. The moment the match started, Xingxin activated her angel soul. The massive 5-meter angel appeared behind her. She wasn't going to underestimate me this time. She'd learned that lesson from when I caught her off guard before. I went all out too. I put on my full Thunder armor set, maxing out every stat I had. I brought my Thunder warhorse to the arena. Though I didn't ride it yet, it wasn't strong enough for this level of combat, and my riding skills still needed work. "I won't let you sneak attack me again, clan. I'll show you what true despair looks like." She launched a massive palm strike through her angel. I blocked it with lightning fong. Everyone watching was shocked. That same attack had cleared an entire arena earlier, and I stopped it like it was nothing. Xingxin couldn't believe it. She'd been training hard. She was honestly 10 times stronger than her old self. But I just kept calmly blocking everything she threw at me. Here's the thing, I was being smart about it. I only used basic attacks to defend, barely spending any magic power. Meanwhile, she was burning through her magic every second just to keep the angel soul active. Her talent was incredible, but her battle sense was terrible. What a waste. I slowly closed the distance between us while blocking. When she realized I was only 5 meters away, she panicked. She remembered last time, when I jumped past her angel and hit her directly. That pain was still fresh in her mind. She pulled back, but she made a huge mistake. Instead of attacking while retreating, she just ran. I seized the opening instantly. I drove the pommel of my sword into her stomach. The sound was sickening. The crowd could hear bones breaking from the stands. One of her bones didn't just crack, it shattered into tiny fragments that stabbed into her flesh. She couldn't even scream at first, but I wasn't done. I moved methodically, wrists, ankles, striking each joint with the sword handle, cracking bones one by one. Cold and precise, like an executioner. Then her screams came. They were blood-curdling. She glared at me with pure hatred. "I'll kill you." In a burst of rage, her angel soul surged. The angel behind her grew from 5 meters to 6. The pressure was crushing. The ground around me cracked into the shape of a giant handprint as an enormous white hand slammed down toward me. I channeled a huge amount of magic into my right arm and swung lightning fong upward. The two forces collided in a blinding explosion of white light. When it faded, her angel was gone. Between her injuries and that final outburst, her magic was completely drained. I was barely scratched. My clothes were a little messy, that was it. The whole fight, I'd been dominating her from start to finish. Nobody expected it to be this one-sided. Xingxin lost her mind completely. She started screaming threats, about killing me, about hurting the people close to me. I stepped on her mouth. Hard. Several of her teeth shattered. She was in agony, her eyes bulging, but she kept trying to curse me through the blood, spitting out broken threats about selling my friends into. She was still mumbling threats through her broken teeth, horrible things about what she'd do to the people I cared about. So I stomped on her stomach, then again and again, each time hitting a different spot. At first she kept cursing me, but when she saw that my expression never changed, that I just kept looking at her like she was already dead, she broke down completely. The insults turned into begging. I'm sorry. Please. Stop. I won't. She passed out before she could finish. I looked up at the Pope, and he gave me a look that said, "That's enough?" Xingxin was still the saintess after all, and if she ended up permanently crippled, it would look bad for the church. They really cared about their image. I'd had my fill for today, so I stopped. But this wasn't over. Not even close. If she'd made herself my enemy, she'd better be ready to be my enemy for life. That's just who I am. I went to the medical area to check on Saga. She was bandaged up and sleeping. The medic told me her wings were broken but would heal fully with enough rest. No permanent damage. That was a relief. Meanwhile, almost nobody felt sorry for Xingxin as she was carried away for treatment. In fact, a lot of people seemed satisfied. She clearly hadn't just made enemies with me. She'd burned bridges with plenty of others too. Winnie had made it to the top 7, which didn't surprise me. She had A-rank talent. Gato was eliminated though. I gave Winnie 5,000 points and told her to buy good medicine for Saga and keep the rest. She tried to refuse, but I wasn't asking. Saga got hurt because of me. Even if it seemed like her own choice, I wasn't going to ignore someone who genuinely cared about me. That night, I kept training. Earned another spirit point. Nothing exciting. The next day, the top 7 had to do a round-robin tournament. But I wasn't interested in doing this one fight at a time. I walked straight onto the stage and said, "You can come one at a time or all at once. I don't care. I don't want to waste time." All 6 remaining fighters had A-rank talent, top level among our generation, but honestly, none of them were a threat to me. The real reason I did this was to test the Pope. After yesterday, when he didn't punish me for beating Xingxin senseless, I was pretty sure he was grooming me to replace her. If he let me get away with something this arrogant, then he was serious about switching heirs. Sure enough, the Pope didn't react at all. He just watched me with an amused look, like he was enjoying it. Most of the other 6 fighters clenched their fists in anger, except Winnie. The werewolf from the earlier entrance exam couldn't hold back. He jumped onto the stage. "I don't need help. I can beat you alone." He transformed into his full werewolf form and charged at me. I didn't even draw my sword. When his claws came at my face, I tilted my head slightly to dodge, then casually punched him in the chest. It looked like nothing, but the impact was massive. He flew backwards, crashed into the arena wall, smashed through several stone bricks, and didn't get up. The werewolf didn't move after hitting the wall. He might have been knocked out, or worse. I'd used my lightning body for that punch. Even with their transformations, these A-rank fighters only had about a third of my stats. They never stood a chance. Everyone who'd been angry a moment ago went completely silent. "Next," I said. Nobody moved. Then Winnie stepped up. "Clan, I'm going all out. Please don't hold back." I nodded. She transformed into her vampire form. Her gentle personality vanished, replaced by something cold and vicious. She was wearing the magic claws I'd made for her. She looked like a real demon. She lunged at me in an instant. I just grabbed her wrist. She was so small that I lifted her off the ground with one hand, like holding a child. Her face turned red, whether from effort or embarrassment, I wasn't sure. She swiped at me with her other hand, and I caught that wrist too. She struggled with everything she had, but couldn't break free. I held both her wrists in one hand and gave her a light chop to the neck. She passed out immediately. The crowd went dead silent. If the werewolf fight was shocking to watch, this one made everyone truly understand just how wide the gap was between us. It looked like an adult playing with a kid, and this was supposed to be the finals. The last 4 fighters exchanged looks and decided to attack together. I thought about drawing Lightning Fong, then glanced at the Pope. No, I wanted to make this impressive. I didn't need a weapon for these 4. I gathered lightning magic into my right arm using the 3rd level of my thunder calling technique. Instead of focusing it into a piercing strike, I released it outward in a wide blast. A massive flash of lightning tore across the arena, shattering the reinforced stone floor. All 4 fighters were engulfed and sent flying. When they landed, their eyes were rolled back, their bodies slightly charred and smoking. It looked terrible, but the injuries weren't serious. They'd recover with some rest. The werewolf happened to open his eyes right at that moment, saw me wipe out 4 people in one move, and decided he must be dreaming. He closed his eyes and went back to sleep. The referee announced the result. The champion of this tournament is Clan Garza. For a moment, everything around me went quiet. The crowd was screaming, but I was lost in my own world. I was the center of everything. I'd felt this before, but never this strongly. On that stage, I was untouchable. Everything went my way. It was like tasting real power, rich and intoxicating. Just one taste, and I was already hooked. If I wanted to control everything, to make the world bend to my will, I needed to get even stronger. Winning first place didn't make me relax. It lit a fire inside me. The Pope appeared beside me. Congratulations, clan. You defeated every opponent and earned your place as the undisputed #1 among this year's recruits. Strong opponents? I thought to myself. I didn't feel like I'd faced any. The Saintus? Those A-rank kids who hadn't grown up yet? None of them qualified. But I kept that thought to myself. How do you feel? The Pope asked. Excited, I said. He laughed. That's natural. Now then, I'm granting you the title of Marquis. Clan, do you think you can bear the weight of that responsibility? His expression turned dead serious. Most people would have panicked at that sudden shift. I just looked him in the eye. I can handle it. Good. By my authority as Pope, I officially bestow upon you the rank of Marquis. From today, you will fight for fairness at the King's Academy. Fairness, I repeated in my head. Interesting choice of words. Yes, I will fight for justice in this world, I said, playing along. The Pope couldn't have been more pleased. After the ceremony, in front of everyone, the message was clear. Things in the church were about to change. Xingxin was still the saintess in name, but everyone knew she was cruel, violent, and treated friend and foe alike, like garbage. After the ceremony, people started comparing me and Xingxin. I crushed her in the tournament, and our personalities couldn't be more different. I was loyal to my friends and ruthless to my enemies, while she was cruel to everyone. A lot of people quietly figured out which side they should be on. A crowd swarmed me, all wanting to introduce themselves. Before I could turn them away, a man in his 30s walked over. Everyone immediately stepped aside for him. I noticed why right away. He wore a Duke's badge on his chest. Marquis Clan, I'm Duke Charles. I'm hosting a birthday banquet tomorrow evening. Would you honor me with your presence? He was very polite. I didn't want to make an enemy of a duke, so I agreed. He smiled and left, satisfied. Everyone else was shocked. A duke publicly inviting me was basically him picking my side. That was a big deal. The gap from Marquis to Duke was the hardest step of all. There were no shortcuts. You had to earn it through real achievements on the battlefield. More people tried to introduce themselves, but I was done. I'm tired and need to rest. I'll be at Duke Charles's banquet tomorrow. We can talk then. Most of them looked disappointed since they didn't have the status to attend that kind of event, but nobody dared push it. As the crowd thinned, one young man in his 20s still approached. He was a viscount. Bold move after what I'd just said, which meant he either had something genuinely useful to offer, or he was an idiot. You don't make it to viscount by being stupid. You have 1 minute, I told him. Thank you, Lord Clan. I'm Robinson Zachary. I'm a merchant who deals in ores and gemstones. I can supply rare stones and forging materials. I thought you might be interested. He had my attention immediately. I always needed high-quality materials. The Blacksmith Guild had good supplies, but there could always be shortages. Having a personal connection like Robinson would be invaluable for getting rare metals when I needed them. You're right. I am interested. He gave me his business card. His shop was in the alley across from the treasure pavilion. I pocketed it and headed home. When I got there, a bunch of people were waiting outside my door. Quinn, Master Gugong, Kono, Sophia, and others. They were there to celebrate. I gave them a smile and, for once, didn't train that night. We had a proper feast together. Everyone got a little drunk and kept saying the future belonged to me. It was a good evening. I didn't send everyone home until midnight. Then the system gave me another charisma point. Again, I walked to the mirror and looked at myself in the firelight. Fair skin, sharp peach blossom eyes that made people's hearts race, a well-shaped nose, nicely curved lips. I really couldn't find a single flaw on this face. I shook it off and went straight to training. The next day, I realized I needed to dress properly for the Duke's banquet. I had talent and strength, but showing up looking like a beggar would be disrespectful to the host. That's just basic manners. I went to the treasure pavilion. Stassi spotted me right away, and her eyes went wide when she saw the marquee badge on my chest. She'd heard the rumors, but couldn't believe it was real. I jumped from Viscount to Marquis in no time at all. Lord Clan, what can I help you with today? I need a formal suit. I'm attending a banquet tonight. Right this way, please. Normally someone at my level would have a custom-tailored suit, but since the banquet was tonight, there wasn't time for that. I just grabbed a black formal outfit off the rack and tried it on. When I came out of the changing room, Stassi froze. The suit was nothing special on its own, but on me it looked completely different. It showed off my tall, lean build perfectly. She couldn't speak for a good 5 seconds. I tried on a few more outfits. Every color, every style looked good on me. Stassi looked like she was watching a fashion show. I told her to wrap up several sets. The total came to 1,300 points after my marquee discount of 13% off. I was actually surprised, not because it was expensive, but because it was cheap. The designs and craftsmanship were solid. Stassi explained that no matter how well-made clothes are, they're still just fabric. Adding gems is what drives the price up. This world was practical like that. I liked it. I trained until evening, then rode my Thunder Warhorse to Duke Charles's mansion in Holy Light City. Unlike my place inside the church, his estate was in the city proper. As a marquis now, I could buy my own house outside the church too if I wanted, though the church would always keep a marquis suite reserved for me. The church buildings themselves were actually incredible, built over 15 years by over 1,000 people with space magic. Every room was 10 to 100 times bigger on the inside than it looked from outside. They were still expanding, even underground. The whole place was truly legendary. At the Duke's gate, the guard asked my name. When I said, Clan Garza, he nearly jumped. Apparently the Duke had specifically told them to treat me well when I arrived. He led me inside personally, and my horse was taken to a rest area. Inside the banquet hall, I was already the topic of conversation before I even showed up. Groups of noble women were talking about how handsome I was at the tournament. Other nobles were discussing how Duke Charles had personally invited me. Everyone wanted a chance to meet me. Nobody dared talk about both me and the Saintess in the same breath, though. Even if she lost her title someday, she still had S-rank talent. Nobody wanted to risk being caught bad-mouthing her. When the guard announced my arrival, Lord Clan Garza, every eye in the room turned to me. I couldn't blame them. My reputation had been building fast. The once-in-a-century forging genius, champion of both the rookie tournament and the martial arts tournament, 10-win streak in the arena, and beating the Saintess 3 times without serious punishment from the Pope. When people got a good look at me, they were impressed. I'd actually cleaned up properly tonight. I wasn't the most impossibly handsome man alive, but I was well above most people in this room. Just like after the ceremony yesterday, people started making their way toward me. Though at least here, in the Duke's home, they had better manners about it. A few people surrounded me at a time, while the rest waited at a distance, not wanting to crowd me. Most were polite. They introduced themselves, told me what business they were in, and offered help if I ever needed it. I actually found several useful contacts before Duke Charles even appeared. Some people clearly didn't like me being there, but nobody was going to cause trouble at the Duke's banquet. The noble women who'd been gossiping about me earlier were stuck at the back, fuming. They were annoyed that all these men kept lining up ahead of them. Then a woman who immediately commanded attention walked right past them. The noble women's faces turned sour, but they didn't dare say a word because of who she was. Everyone around her stepped aside. She came straight up to me. Marquis Clan, hello? I'm Marquis Katrin Teresa. I looked at her properly. She appeared to be around 25 or 26. Being a marquis at that age was genuinely impressive, and she had the looks to match her rank. She was strikingly beautiful. Fox-like eyes, a heart-shaped face, chestnut waves, a tiny straight nose, a slim waist, and a figure that was making several men nearby swallow hard. I nodded slightly out of respect. Lady Katrin, hello? My voice stayed completely calm, which seemed to surprise her a little. She told me later that every man she'd ever met either fell apart around her or tried too hard to act composed. She was studying me, trying to figure out which type I was. After she stared at me for a while without talking, I asked, Lady Katrin, Is there something you needed from me? That caught her off guard. Apparently, people usually scrambled to make conversation with her. Nobody just asked her what she wanted. Nothing special. I just wanted to meet the young Marquis. Would you like to chat somewhere quieter? Of course, she was a fellow Marquis, and until Duke Charles came out, giving her some respect was the right move. I'd also learned from talking to the other nobles that everyone at Viscount rank and above had side businesses. I was curious what hers was. We walked to a quieter corner. On the way, I noticed a red rose tattoo on the back of her hand. I'd seen similar tattoos on women in certain professions inside the church. I had a guess, but it would have been rude to say it. She saved me the trouble. I'm the owner of every brothel in the city. I coughed. Sorry, that was rude of me. It's fine. Surprise is normal. She smiled like a beautiful devil. But I have another business too. Very few people know about it. Want to hear? What kind of business? Come closer. This is a secret. I hesitated, then leaned in. As she moved close, I caught a scent, something dangerously sweet. I also have another business. Katrin didn't say it out loud. Instead, she suddenly reached over and traced letters on my neck with her finger. It startled me, but I held still. Based on the strokes, I figured out what she meant: intelligence. She was in the information business. That made a lot of sense. Her girls in the brothels were probably how she gathered secrets. Very useful. Marquis clan, I only serve a very small number of clients, so my prices are high. Be prepared if you ever need my help. Then she just turned and walked away. No lingering, no games. She stirred my curiosity and then pulled back cleanly. My gut told me she was a dangerous woman. Best not to get too involved with her unless I absolutely had to. I'd already met most of the important people I needed to. I figured I'd wait for Duke Charles, show my face a bit longer, and then leave. Soon the hall got noisy. Charles had arrived. He scanned the room, found me immediately, and walked straight over. Let's talk, he said. We went to a quiet corner, and he got right to the point. Clan, do you know why I support you over the Saintus? I almost choked. He was just saying this out loud? But he told me to relax. He'd used a soundproofing magic scroll. Nobody could hear us. Because I'm better than her, I guessed. That's part of it. The main reason is that the Pope has already given up on her. That surprised me a bit. I'd suspected it, but she was still sitting in the Saintess's chair. Charles read my mind. You're wondering why she still has the title if she's this terrible, right? I nodded. What matters most to the church? I thought for a moment. Faith. Correct. But reputation matters almost as much, not just with ordinary people, but with top talent. If the church strips an S-rank genius of her Saintess title just for having a bad personality, what will other S-rank talents think? They'll worry the same could happen to them and choose a different faction instead. That made perfect sense. An S-rank talent at full growth could equal an army of 100,000 soldiers. No faction would casually provoke someone who had an S-rank fighter, because if you didn't kill them in one shot, you'd face endless retaliation. So removing Xingxin too quickly wasn't realistic. But it didn't matter. With her behavior, she'd eventually destroy herself. I just needed to nudge things along. Charles waited patiently while I thought it through, then said, "Looks like you've figured it out. You probably know what to do next." "Yes. I have some ideas." "Good. Come to me if you need help. But be careful. Most people want to get close to you now, but there are plenty hiding in the shadows who want you gone." "I understand, Duke Charles. Now go enjoy the party. Want me to introduce you to my sister? She's a new student this year. Only B-rank talent, though." I didn't refuse. Why not meet more people? He brought me over to a girl about my age. My first impression was that she looked incredibly elegant, like a true noble woman. I'd met other noble girls before, but none carried themselves like her. "Clan, this is my sister, Nina. Nina, this is Marquis Clangarsa. I'm sure you've heard his name." She'd already been staring at me since Charles brought me over. When she heard my name, her eyes went even wider. "Hello, Lord Clan. I'm Nina." "Hello, Nina." After we greeted each other, we chatted for a while. She was clearly a well-bred noble woman, elegant and proper. I could tell Charles had brought me over partly hoping we might hit it off. For girls like Nina, arranged marriages were normal, so she was probably hoping I'd be a better option than some man 20 years older than her. She asked me what I usually do every day. I thought about it and answered honestly. Eat, train, forge, sleep. She almost laughed. Apparently she found that cute. We exchanged some polite conversation, and she told me to just call her Nina, so I did. After about half an hour, I felt like I'd accomplished what I came for. Nina, it's getting late and I have things to do tonight. I should head out. She looked a little disappointed. The banquet had barely started, but she smiled and wished me a safe trip home. I could tell she thought I was leaving because I found her boring. That wasn't it. I just had work to do. After I left, apparently Nina asked Charles if I didn't like her. He told her I wasn't the type to waste a single minute, and that leaving early just meant I genuinely had things to do. He also warned her that someone like me might have more than one woman in the future, and that if she wanted to stay by my side, she'd need to be useful and supportive, not just present. When I got home, I went straight to forging and worked through the night. The next morning, Milia met me at the door. Master, someone from the church came yesterday. What did they want? They delivered a mission for you. You can choose whether to accept it. She handed me a sealed letter. I read it over. Mission: clear the cat demons from Thunder Canyon. B-rank mission. Reward: 50,000 points. Type: group mission. I frowned. The Pope wouldn't give me an ordinary task. If he was grooming me, the mission would either help me grow or have great value. This one looked too simple on the surface. Then I flipped the letter over and found a note on the back. Something maybe hidden deep inside Thunder Canyon. A hint? Seriously? Get your riddles out of here. I was annoyed that the Pope couldn't just tell me directly, but knowing there was something special waiting for me there, I was satisfied enough. The mission started tomorrow. B-rank missions were genuinely dangerous, normally assigned to earls, not fresh marquises like me. Most earls had years, even decades of growth behind them, so they were naturally much stronger than me in raw terms. I headed to the treasure pavilion as usual and, with Stassi's help, stocked up heavily on supplies. The next morning, I put on my full armor and rode my Thunder Warhorse to the church gates. For people were already waiting. This was a 5-person mission. There was one earl named Sansa and 3 viscounts: Hetty, Marshall, and Henry. I figured the viscounts were strong enough for the job and just needed to build up achievements to reach earl rank. When they saw me, a woman came over and asked if I was joining their team. She seemed surprised the Marquis was doing a B-rank mission instead of an A-rank one. She probably assumed I'd gotten my title through some special method and wasn't actually that strong yet. I took off my helmet, and once they recognized my face, their whole attitude changed. They couldn't believe their luck, teaming up with the Clan Garza. I also realized I'd met all 4 of them at Duke Charles's banquet the night before. This wasn't a coincidence. The Pope had clearly arranged this team on purpose. Sansa ran a transport business, and the 3 viscounts dealt in spices, magic beast meat, and potions. Useful connections, every one of them. Fine. If the Pope wanted me to build relationships with these people, I'd play along. Consider it keeping the old man happy. We set out, and I immediately noticed a problem. Their mounts were all much faster than my Thunder Warhorse. Nobody said anything disrespectful about it. They understood I was still early in my career, but I knew I was slowing the group down. After a full day of riding, we set up camp. Over the fire, I asked how far we were from Thunder Canyon. About 2 more days at this pace, Sansa said. 2 days there, 2 days back, 6 days of travel minimum. Too slow. My warhorse was the bottleneck. I thought about either replacing it or finding a way to level it up. The horse shivered when I glanced at it, like it sensed my thoughts. The real issue was my riding skill. In this world, knights get stat bonuses from their mounts, and mounts get bonuses from their riders. But you need proper beast taming riding techniques to unlock that connection. I just hadn't had time to learn any. After this mission, I'd make it a priority. While we talked around the campfire, Hetty kept scooting closer to me without me noticing. Eventually, she was practically pressed against my side, her cheeks red in the firelight. I could smell her lavender perfume. Ever since the tournament, women had been constantly approaching me. I used to think that would feel great, and honestly, it did. But it was also a hassle. I wasn't the type to get distracted by romance. All of that could wait until I reached the top. Unless I happened to meet someone truly special along the way. Everyone around the campfire could tell what Hetty was trying to do, but nobody interrupted. I wasn't interested though. I didn't know her well enough, and getting tangled up with the wrong person would just cause problems. She eventually gave up, probably thinking I was too young to understand her hints. That night, I took 2 Thunder Spirit pills during my training and got a small boost. The next day, we passed through a small village and decided to stop for supplies. The moment I entered, I frowned. The village was better off than ones I'd seen before, but I could see people dressed in rags working the fields like cattle. Others were eating off the ground like dogs. These were slaves. Sansa explained casually that in the King's Academy world, people who couldn't survive would sell themselves into slavery for a few meals. Some villages made their entire living from the slave trade, cruel, but profitable. This village was one of them. I stayed quiet. I didn't try to free anyone. This was how the world worked, and I didn't have the power to change it yet. We arrived at the village center where a slave auction was happening. The slaves all had dead eyes, like they'd given up on life. I glanced at them once and looked away. The village chief rushed over, clearly terrified. Apparently nobles sometimes killed villagers on a whim, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. Sansa told him we just needed food and water. He hurried off to prepare supplies and came back with fruit wine, food, water, and a small chest of silver coins. Sansa pushed the silver away. We're from the church. We don't take these. She paid with gold coins instead. I like that. A few children were peeking at us from behind a wall. After we made eye contact, I pulled out a whip from somewhere and tugged it like I was about to use it. The kids burst into tears and ran. Behind my helmet, I was grinning. Scaring kids was fun. Sansa caught my expression and couldn't help laughing. I suspected Sansa had taken us through this village on purpose, to show me the real world outside the academy. But I'd already lived that life. I knew exactly how ugly things could be. On the third afternoon, we finally reached the outer edge of Thunder Canyon. Sansa suggested we camp outside for the night since the canyon was too dangerous after dark. That made sense, so I agreed. The next morning, we entered the canyon. Our mission was to kill at least 100 cat demons and bring back their hearts and teeth. Before we even went all the way in, I could already feel the thick lightning element magic in the air. This place was perfect for me, and it made me even more curious. What was the Pope hinting at? What treasure was hiding deep inside Thunder Canyon? The moment we entered Thunder Canyon, a bolt of lightning struck the ground right in front of us. I swallowed hard. This place was more dangerous than I'd expected. Sansa told me to relax, explaining that the lightning here wasn't as deadly as natural lightning. It would hurt, but it wouldn't kill us. I wondered if the strange weather was caused by whatever was hidden deep inside the canyon. The team moved in formation. I was placed in the middle along with Henry, our mage, since we were the less durable ones. Marshall, the assassin, scouted ahead. Sansa and Hetty, both tank-type warriors, guarded the front and rear. Funny enough, the two women were the heavy hitters while the men were the fragile ones. Soon Marshall sent up a signal, a silent firework that displayed the number 19. 19 enemies ahead. We crept forward and spotted them. 19 cat demons, about 1.7 meters tall, thin and wiry. 15 were regular ones, 2 carried staffs. Those were cat demon shamans, and 2 were much bigger and more muscular. The 4 special ones were clearly mutants. Sansa laid out the plan quickly. The shamans could sense enemies up to 70 meters away, so we'd stop at 80 meters. Henry would charge up a fireball, and the instant it hit, we'd all rush in. Priority targets, the 2 shamans. Any questions? She looked at me, the least experienced one here. No, I understood everything. Henry began chanting. Most of the cat demons were lounging around lazily. One shaman suddenly stood up, sensing something, and let out a warning screech, but it was too late. A massive fireball crashed right between the 2 shamans and exploded. Several cat demons were caught in the blast before they could react. By the time they figured out what was happening, we were already on top of them. I drove lightning fong straight through a cat demon's throat. Instant kill. These things ranged from tier 3 to 5, so they weren't that hard for me one-on-one. Sansa split one clean in half. Hetty skewered 2 with a single spear thrust. In seconds, half the group was down. The 2 large cat demons tried to counterattack. Marshall slipped behind the shamans and put his daggers through both their necks before they could cast anything. Clean work. Sansa smashed her shield into one of the big cat demons and sent it flying. They weren't even in the same league in terms of strength. Hetty speared through the other one's stomach. 2 regular cat demons charged me at the same time. I swung lightning fong in a horizontal slash and cut them both in half at the waist as they closed in. Sansa had just finished splitting open her big cat demon's skull and caught that moment. I could tell she was impressed. After that, she stopped fighting and just watched me. With no more serious threats left, she wanted to see what I could really do. I activated my lightning body and became a streak of light on the battlefield, darting from enemy to enemy. Every cat demon I reached died in a single hit. It wasn't just my strength, my speed was the real killer. The cat demons couldn't even react before I cut them down. Sansa was watching closely, and I could tell she was surprised. Most warriors specialize in either power or speed, but I was top tier in both. That's rare and requires incredible talent plus effort that most people can't imagine. I killed 9 of the 19 cat demons by myself, all regular ones, but still impressive. After the fight, my breathing was completely steady. Sansa looked almost disturbed by that. Speed, strength, and stamina. I had no weak points. She showed us how to harvest the cat demon's hearts, fangs, and claws. Only the fangs had real value as weapon materials. I watched her technique, then did it myself. My hands were a little clumsy at first, but I didn't damage anything. I felt zero sympathy for these creatures. Cat demons are evil. They catch live prey, slice open their stomachs with razor-sharp claws, and eat their organs while the victim watches. After cleaning up, I started thinking about how to slip away from the team and explore deep inside the canyon, where the Pope's hidden treasure supposedly was. I couldn't just announce it. I needed a good excuse. After a half-hour rest, Sansa said we needed to kill enough cat demons before nightfall. Spending the night inside Thunder Canyon was a terrible idea. The lightning storms alone would exhaust us, and the monsters got more active at night. That actually gave me an idea. If we didn't finish by evening, I might have an opportunity to break away. We encountered a group of thunder steelback boars next, but Sansa wisely chose to avoid them. They were incredibly tough, strong, fast, armored, and their attacks caused lightning paralysis. They weren't our mission target, so we snuck past them without any problems. We picked off a few more stray cat demons along the way. Then we hit a real problem. Marshall came running back instead of sending a signal flare. The situation was too dangerous for that. There's a massive group ahead. Around 52 cat demons. 6 shamans, 8 large ones, plus a cat demon assassin and a cat demon warrior. Everyone went quiet. We were strong, but one mistake against a group that size could get us all killed. Going around wasn't easy either. The canyon was wide, but this group was spread across it like a wall. Sansa thought for a moment, then looked at me. She'd seen what I could do. I think we should take the risk, she said. We might not find another group this big, and if we go around, we'll have to face them on the way back when we're even more tired. Now is our best chance, Henry agreed. Marshall and Hetty agreed. I agreed too. I was impressed with this team. The Pope had picked well. No troublemakers, no one trying to play hero. Everyone was efficient and professional. Very comfortable to work with. Sansa quickly put together a battle plan. Marshall would take out 2 shamans on the edge using his stealth. Sansa and Hetty would handle the 2 in the middle. Henry would snipe one on the left with a fire arrow. I'd take the one on the far left, the weakest section of the group, with just 1 shaman, 1 large cat demon, and a few small ones. Sansa clearly assigned me the easiest spot based on my experience level. I didn't mind. Everyone got into position at 80 meters. The moment Henry's fire arrow punched through the first shaman's head, we all moved at once. Marshall was the fastest. He'd already snuck right next to 2 shamans using his stealth skill and stabbed both through the neck in seconds. Sansa carved through 2 regular cat demons on her way in, bashed a large one aside with her shield, and drove her sword through her target shaman. Hetty was even faster. She skewered a cat demon on her spear mid-charge and kept going, killing her shaman in 1 shot like a streak of red light. I activated my lightning body and became a bolt of blue-purple light, weaving past every enemy in my path and striking my target shaman dead. Nobody on the team missed their mark. After the shamans were down, everyone shifted to their next targets without any confusion, like a perfectly tuned machine. The cat demon warrior, bigger and stronger than the large ones, with poisonous green claws, went after Sansa. Even she had to be careful with that one. The assassin-type cat demon fought Hetty, though she seemed to have the upper hand. The large cat demon near me came at me right away, claws swinging so fast they left afterimages. Its attacks were wild and angry though, so I dodged most of them. 1 claw caught my shoulder, but only scratched the armor. I found my opening, sliced off one of its paws, and while it screamed in pain, I stabbed it 3 times. Heart, kidney, throat. It dropped dead. Henry was watching from the back and couldn't believe what he saw. That large cat demon was close to level 50, and I dealt with it like it was nothing. After the tournament, my strength had grown again. Honestly, I could have handled 2 or 3 of those at once. I moved on to the regular cat demons. One after another, I cut them down without stopping. After I'd killed about 15, the remaining ones started running away from me instead of attacking. They were terrified. Meanwhile, Sansa finished off the cat demon warrior in just 3 minutes, then helped Hetty take down the assassin. Everything went exactly according to plan. The whole ambush took just over 20 minutes, faster than expected. A lot of cat demons tried to run at the end, which actually slowed us down. The cleanup and material collection afterward took longer than the fight itself. I could tell Sansa was watching me differently now. She'd expected me to be a burden because of my age and level, but after seeing me in action, the whole team finally accepted me as an equal. They stopped giving me the easy jobs. By noon, we'd finished collecting everything. We ate a quick meal, but skipped the cat demon meat. It's tough, slightly toxic, and not worth the trouble without proper preparation. We pushed forward for 3 more hours after that, but didn't encounter a single group of monsters. The sun was going down, and in the canyon, darkness comes fast. Looks like we're spending the night in here, Sansa said. Nobody was happy about it, but there was no choice. We found a natural rock wall with a gap underneath, big enough for all of us to squeeze into. As Sansa was about to settle in, I thrust my sword past her face. She didn't flinch. When I pulled Lightning Fang back, a rock-colored venomous snake was skewered on the blade. We found 2 more inside and killed them before finally settling down. Once it was fully dark, I knew it was time to move. I stood up. "Where are you going?" someone asked. "Just checking outside. Need to collect some things." Sansa looked at me for a moment. "Need someone to come with you?" "No." "All right. Hope you're back by morning." Marshall wanted to follow me, but Sansa stopped him. They were all smart enough to realize I had another reason for being here beyond the cat demon mission, but they knew better than to ask. I'd figured out by now that the Pope must have briefed Sansa ahead of time. He'd arranged these teammates knowing I'd need to leave the group. Sansa had probably been told not to stop me. I could have been more open about it, but since not everyone on the team seemed to be in on it, leaving quietly was the better choice. Still, I didn't fully trust them. I'd planted scented pouches on everyone without them noticing. If anyone followed me, I'd know immediately. Sansa apparently found hers and just smiled at it. Smart woman. Once I was alone in the canyon, things got serious. It was pitch black, absolutely no light anywhere. I pulled out a potion called Beast Eye Liquid and drank it. For the next 3 hours, I'd be able to see in the dark like a monster. The downsides were that it tasted absolutely horrible and made you irritable. I popped a candy in my mouth and chugged water, but the awful taste barely faded. My vision shifted. Everything that had been pure darkness became clear and visible. It took a moment to adjust to the strange perspective, but I could see now. Time to find out what was hiding in the depths of Thunder Canyon. The Beast Eye potion was doing a number on me. I felt nauseous, dizzy, hot, and weirdly aggressive. I heard 2 beasts tearing each other apart nearby, and had to fight the urge to jump in and join them. I kept moving. I realized the canyon was much bigger than I thought, so I started running along the edges to cover ground faster. Most monster territories I could blow past before they reacted. One rock bear wasn't so forgiving though. I barely passed through its territory, and it chased me for a solid half hour before finally stopping at the border of a cat demon territory. The bear stared at the cat demons. The cat demons stared at the bear, and while they were busy sizing each other up, I disappeared into the distance. The deeper I went, the stronger the lightning energy became. Being a lightning user myself was the only reason I could handle it. The monsters grew fewer and fewer until eventually there were none at all. I figured either something incredibly powerful lived at the bottom and scared everything away, or the environment was just too harsh for normal creatures. Then I thought about it more carefully. If the Pope really wanted me as his successor, he wouldn't send me somewhere to die. So there probably wasn't some unstoppable beast down here. It was just the harsh environment keeping things away. I pushed forward. The lightning element was so dense now that tiny arcs of electricity were crackling in the air constantly. I got struck by lightning once, but my armor absorbed it completely. Just past midnight, I reached the deepest part of the canyon. There was a massive dark pool of water. Looking at it gave me chills. I kept imagining a giant snake bursting out and swallowing me whole. I wasn't about to jump in blindly. I threw a stone into the water and hid behind a boulder, suppressing my presence completely. Nothing happened. I tried again, and again, with bigger rocks each time. A bolt of lightning lit up the whole area white, and the pool stayed perfectly still, eerily calm, like nothing lived in it at all. After convincing myself it was safe enough, I carefully waded in. I immediately felt a constant mild electric current running through my body. It stung a little, but at the same time, my magic power was growing. Training here long-term would be incredibly beneficial. I kept going deeper. Down at the very bottom, I could make out a huge dark shape. It wasn't moving at all, like a dead object, but I could see faint currents of electricity flowing across its surface. As I swam deeper, visibility dropped even with my beast eyes. About 5 meters from the dark shape, I stopped, because I could finally see what it was. A massive black serpent. Just looking at its body filled me with a deep, primal fear. The word, danger, practically glowed in my mind. I stood absolutely no chance against this thing. But something was strange. I was right next to it, and it hadn't reacted at all. I carefully swam around to its head, which was several times bigger than my entire body. I recognized it from books. This looked exactly like a thunder pool-scale python, a mythical supermonster that could destroy entire kingdoms according to legend. There was a 5-pointed star pattern on its head, a sealing magic circle. According to old records, the first pope had subdued one of these creatures and sealed it inside the king's academy. I'd always thought that was just a myth. Apparently not. Whatever the pope wanted me to find had to be nearby. I searched carefully, making sure not to touch the python and accidentally break the seal. Then I spotted a faint glow in the darkness. It was a small magic beast egg, a thunderpool-scale python egg. I swallowed hard. This was incredibly valuable. I hesitated. What if taking the egg woke the python and broke the seal? But I figured the pope wouldn't set me up to die. His seal couldn't be that fragile. I grabbed the egg. A mild electric shock ran through my hand, but nothing serious. I looked back at the python. It didn't move. I exhaled with relief. Before leaving, I noticed another glowing light nearby. It was a flawless purple thunder crystal, head-sized, worth an unimaginable fortune. Even a fingernail-sized piece would cause wars. But it sat on top of a magic circle, and I was 99% sure it was part of the seal keeping the python imprisoned. As much as I wanted it, I left it alone. I swam toward the surface. Sunlight was already piercing through the water. I'd been down there all night without realizing it. As the light illuminated the bottom, I finally saw the full picture and nearly choked. The python was even more enormous than I'd imagined. Its head alone was bigger than a house, with 2 blue horn-like protrusions. And the sealing array wasn't just one small circle. It was 9 concentric rings of 6-pointed stars surrounding the beast, with 81 glowing points that were each a purple thunder crystal. I'd been naive thinking that small circle on its head was the whole seal. Now I understood why Thunder Canyon had such bizarre weather. The seal constantly drained the python's lightning magic to keep it asleep, and all that excess energy radiated outward through the entire canyon. I broke the surface and gasped for air. Thank goodness my body was strong enough to hold my breath that long. Standing in the morning sunlight, I felt like I'd been reborn. I looked at the egg in my hands. Unlike the adult python's black scales, this egg was pure white. According to legend, these creatures go through 7 growth stages, changing color with each skin they shed while growing dramatically larger. Holding the egg tight, I hurried away from the pool, excited about what I'd found. As I walked away with the egg, I had no idea that the thunderpool scale python actually stirred behind me. It opened its yellow eyes and noticed its child was gone. It tried to break free, but the seal was too strong. Within minutes, it fell back asleep, helpless. The egg wasn't too big, so I stuffed it in my backpack. It was alive, which meant I couldn't store it in a spatial ring. My condition wasn't great. The dense lightning energy deep in the canyon had left crack-like marks on my face from overexposure. If I weren't a lightning type, my body would have started breaking down by now. The marks slowly faded as I moved away from the depths. Then trouble found me. A group of lightning lizardmen blocked my path, over a dozen of them, including a mutant shaman. I tried to edge past them peacefully, making it obvious I didn't want to fight. They attacked anyway. The shaman hit me with a thunder cage spell that slowed me down dramatically, and all the lizards rushed me at once. Over a dozen 2-meter-tall lizards with flicking tongues charging at you. Genuinely terrifying. But I kept calm and fought through them all. When it was over, only the shaman was left, crawling away. I didn't even want to fight you, I said. Why did you have to come looking for death? I drove lightning fang through its spine and finished it. I collected the valuable parts from their bodies and kept moving. 7 hours later, I found Sansa and the others clearing out cat demons. They were doing fine without me, but I jumped in and helped clean up the rest. Sansa looked relieved to see me alive, though she noticed I was exhausted. Then a massive roar shook everyone to their core. A cat demon several times bigger than a cat demon warrior appeared. It was deep red, over 3 meters tall, radiating terrifying pressure. This was a berserk cat demon, at least level 60. It had apparently been away fighting a rock bear that had gone crazy the night before. It came home to find its entire tribe slaughtered. It was furious beyond reason. My luck was incredible. I'd been awake for 2 days straight, running on fumes, and now I had to fight a boss. Perfect. Everyone got into formation fast. Sansa took the front with her shield. Hetty and I were second line. Marshall waited for an opening to strike from behind, and Henry provided ranged damage from the back. The berserk cat demon had completely lost its mind. It charged straight at Sansa and slammed its claws into her glorious rank shield. For the first time, Sansa was actually pushed back in terms of raw power. Against the level 50 large cat demons, she'd been sending them flying. This thing was on another level entirely. It kept attacking savagely, hammering Sansa's shield over and over. Fortunately, the glorious rank shield held up. Only white scratch marks appeared on it, with no sign of breaking. But the pressure was immense. Sansa was burning through her stamina fast, blocking the berserk cat demon's attacks. Hetty found an opening and thrust her spear at incredible speed, but the creature dodged on pure instinct. Her spear only grazed its shoulder, leaving a tiny wound. I attacked at the same time, but when lightning fang hit its body, sparks flew, and that was it. It felt like slashing an iron wall. Its hide was unbelievably tough. I barely left a scratch, the kind that would heal before you reached a hospital. Henry's fireball didn't do much better, the fur barely singed. Marshall held back, knowing that getting grabbed at close range meant death. Our attacks were basically tickling this thing, and it was getting angrier. But Sansa held strong. She was level 60-something herself. Her equipment gave her an edge even if her raw stats couldn't match a beast's body. We kept at it, wave after wave. Hetty was dealing the most damage, targeting existing wounds with pinpoint accuracy to deepen them. Marshall managed to stab out one of its eyes. After 20 minutes, the creature was covered in blood, but it clearly had a lot of fight left. Then it snapped. It let out a furious roar. Its eyes turned blood red, its body swelled up, and its attacks became a blur of claws. Sansa shouted, "It's gone berserk. Be careful." The pounding on her shield intensified. I could see the pain on her face. We couldn't keep this up much longer. She pulled out a potion and drank it. Her stats visibly jumped and her breathing steadied. Fair enough, in a life-or-death fight, you use whatever you've got. I popped a strength pill too. Hot energy surged through me, and my attacks started leaving bigger cuts. But the beast didn't care anymore. In berserk mode, it had lost all sense of pain and become a pure killing machine with maxed-out combat instincts. Then disaster struck. Hetty drove her spear deep into the creature's chest, almost punching through entirely, but at the same moment, its claws raked across her chest. She was sent flying. 3 deep gashes ran from her chest to her stomach, cutting down to bone. If she hadn't been wearing armor, she'd have died instantly. She managed to drink a high-grade healing potion before passing out, which slowed the bleeding. Losing her hurt our damage output badly, but nobody panicked. We all knew that breaking formation would only make things worse. Marshall appeared behind the beast and drove his dagger into its lower back. It swiped backward, and just as it was about to catch him the same way it got Hetty, he vanished. Teleportation, his talent skill. For an assassin, that's basically a cheat ability. And his version had no usage limit, only costing magic power based on distance and weight. He could teleport about 10 times before running dry. Despite being down a member, we held it together. Everyone here was genuinely talented. Sansa's A-rank talent, growing stronger, increased her power the longer a fight lasted, up to 300% at maximum. Once it maxed out, She could summon a battle soul projection that massively boosted her range and combat power. Sansa's talent needed 3 full hours of fighting to reach maximum power. That's why it was only rated A rank instead of S. But in large-scale battles, it would be absolutely broken. Henry, our mage, was a powerhouse too. His talent gave him 10 times the magic reserves of a normal mage, so he could keep firing spells almost indefinitely. After Hetty went down, he became our main damage dealer, hammering the same spot on the beast's chest over and over until it was a charred, bleeding mess. Slowly, the berserk cat demon started losing steam. Its movements got sluggish, its eyes began clearing up, the berserk state was wearing off. I saw my chance. I gathered 90% of my remaining magic into one strike and drove lightning fang straight into the wound Henry had been burning open. When I ripped the blade out, the bleeding effect triggered at full power. Blood poured out of the wound like a broken dam. My legs almost gave out. Burning that much magic at once felt awful. 5 minutes later, the creature had fully returned to its senses. It looked at us with bitter, defeated eyes. It hadn't managed to kill a single one of us. Sansa finished it with a sword through the throat. The fight lasted a full hour. Sansa's power had doubled from her talent, but the after effect would leave her weakened for about a day. She sat down gasping. Under her sleeve, her left hand had turned a horrible purple-black. She couldn't lift it at all. Marshall collected the loot while I helped Henry treat Hetty's wounds. We needed to leave the canyon fast. We rode hard, but couldn't make it out before nightfall, so we camped in the same rock crevice as the night before. Then things got worse. Hetty's wounds were infected. The berserk cat demon's claws carried a powerful toxin. Henry's antidote pills only slowed it down. She won't survive the night like this, Henry said, his face grim. We need lightning element herbs, enough quantity or high enough quality to hold until we get back to the academy. I felt responsible. If I hadn't left the team to explore the depths, we wouldn't have been delayed, and Hetty probably never would have faced that monster. This was on me. What kind of herbs? I asked. Henry described them. Lightning herbs have thin, sharp, blade-like leaves that grow on cliff walls. You have to look up to find them. Got it. I'm going. He stopped me and handed me a special potion he'd developed himself. You've been running for 2 days. Normal stamina potions won't work on you anymore. This will restore some energy quickly. You'll feel a bit weak afterward, but no real side effects. I drank it. A cool wave washed through my body and pushed back the exhaustion. It helped. Marshall and I headed out together to search for herbs, while Henry stayed behind to protect Sansa and Hetty. I wasn't going to let Hetty die, not when this was partly my fault. I drank another beast eye potion and gave one to Marshall. We split up to search. I got lucky and found a basic thundergrass pretty quickly, but it was low grade. I kept looking. Eventually, I spotted something much better, a thunder crystal flower, a tier 4 herb growing on the cliff wall. That would make a real difference for Hetty. But I didn't rush in. Hidden near the flower was a thunder shadow snake, perfectly camouflaged against the rock. These snakes have terrifying venom. One bite paralyzes your body, while the poison slowly destroys your organs. Even tier 6 beasts can struggle against their toxin. The trade-off is that snakes are physically weak, no claws, limited attack options. I rested for a moment, steadied my breathing, then threw lightning fang at the snake without warning. It hit. The snake shrieked and charged at me in a blind rage. Instead of dodging, I grabbed it right at the weak spot on its neck and twisted its head off with brute force. Even separated from the body, the head kept snapping at me. I ignored it, climbed the cliff, grabbed the flower and my sword, then took the whole snake carcass back. Tier 4 beast parts have good medicinal value. Back at the crevice, I saw something that hit me hard. Sansa's left arm had turned purple-black under her sleeve. She'd been hiding it. Henry had already found out and was treating her. He said on anyone else, they'd have lost the arm. Her body was strong enough to recover with rest, but she'd been quietly bearing all that pain the whole time. She just laughed it off. I did the most work this time, so I'm taking the biggest share of the reward. I nodded seriously. I wouldn't forget this. I handed the thunder crystal flower and other herbs to Henry. His eyes lit up. This is great. Hetty's condition should stabilize now. But we still need more lightning herbs to ease her pain. I turned to go back out, but Hetty grabbed my arm with her cold, pale hand. Don't. Go. Stay with me a while. Henry backed her up. You're not in great shape either. The patient needs company. Sit with her and talk. Marshall can find the rest. I sat down beside Hetty and held her hand. It was ice cold. Feeling how bad her condition really was shook me. She smiled weakly. Lord Clan, could you tell me a story? I thought for a moment, then told her some classic fairy tales with happy endings. Things like the ugly duckling. Halfway through, Marshall came back with an armload of herbs, 2 Tier 3 lightning herbs, for Tier 2 ones, and a pile of other materials. The man was incredibly efficient. Henry looked them over. More than enough. Go grab a few more for the road. Marshall left again without a word. He didn't ask why I was sitting here resting instead of helping. Good man. Henry explained his plan while working. Lightning herbs have strong purifying properties and are effective against toxins. He'd remove impurities from the lower-grade herbs to make pills and grind the thunder crystal flower into powder to apply directly to Hetty's wounds. He warned it would be extremely painful. I watched Henry work with his flames, carefully stripping impurities from each herb. His hands moved with practiced elegance. There's something captivating about watching a skilled potion maker at work. I could feel Hetty's grip on my hand tightening as the poison spread. Henry finished quickly and ground the thunder crystal flower into powder, then started applying it to her wounds. Hetty's hand clamped down on mine with incredible force. I'd already put a wooden stick in her mouth to bite on. The pain was obviously unbearable. Tears streamed down her face. But Henry didn't slow down. Better to get it over with fast. After about a minute, he finished. 5 minutes later, her grip loosened and her expression slowly relaxed. Henry made the remaining herbs into pills and handed them to me. Feed her 1 pill every 4 hours to keep the poison from spreading. Got it. He looked at the blood vessels in my eyes. Get some sleep. We need you tomorrow. I didn't argue. I lay down next to Hetty, still holding her hand, and closed my eyes. The system woke me after 2 hours with a notification, 1 agility point. Normally 2 hours would fully recharge me, but after everything I'd been through, my body was still exhausted. I looked over at Hetty sleeping peacefully. She was actually quite pretty. Wheat-toned skin turned pale from the illness, soft features, clean face, lovely almond eyes. She looked completely harmless, like someone's little sister. I fed her a pill on schedule. A few monsters came sniffing around during the night, but Marshall and Henry handled them easily. The next morning, we started moving at first light. Everyone was in better shape after resting, but we avoided fights whenever possible. The few monsters we couldn't dodge, Marshall, Henry, and I dealt with quickly. Hetty rode with me since she kept drifting in and out of consciousness. I looked after her the whole way. We left Thunder Canyon by afternoon. Looking back at the constant lightning behind us, it felt like we'd escaped from another world. It took 4 more days to reach the church. We dropped off the wounded, turned in the mission, collected our reward, and I went straight home. Milia opened the door, beaming. Master, you're back. Yeah. I need to rest. I didn't even shower. I just collapsed on my bed. Milia started preparing food. During my absence, the church had been delivering higher quality magic beast meat because of my marquis rank. They'd also notified her that we were moving to a bigger residence. I slept for 10 straight hours. When I woke up, I took a bath. The moment I sank into the water felt like salvation. Then I ate 3 times my usual amount. The premium beast meat was incredible, juicy, rich, packed with magic energy. After eating, I finally felt alive again. Milia told me about the new house. I said we'd move later today, and she ran off excitedly to pack. I checked my stats. Level 37. Strength, 204. Agility, 186. Constitution, 199. Spirit, 185. Every stat had jumped by over 30 points during this trip. The growth was getting ridiculous. I knew my huge stat gains came from absorbing all that lightning energy in the canyon and the constant life or death fighting. Real-world experience really does accelerate growth like nothing else. After Milia packed everything up, we moved to the new residence. It was incredible. A 2-story suite with over 10 rooms, master bedroom, guest rooms, a training room, a forging room, a warehouse, a kitchen, and more. Every room was spacious. Several servants were waiting for us. All attractive young women, of course. The church sure knew what they were doing. Milia immediately got defensive. I kept it simple. From now on, you all follow Milia's orders. Whatever she says, you do. That caught Milia off guard, but she'd get used to it. I had something important to do. absorb the thunder rage flame. Before, my body was too weak to handle it. Just touching it had caused a violent reaction. But now my constitution was several times stronger and my lightning resistance had improved dramatically. I tested it first without any protection or techniques, just raw contact. The electricity hit me hard, but I could bear it. Good enough. I took the protective pill the guild president had given me, then opened the special glass container. Blue flames erupted out immediately. I activated my thunder calling technique at full power and swallowed the flame into my body. It went wild inside me, burning and paralyzing at the same time. The pill protected my organs while I wrapped the flame in my own magic, wrestling it under control. My face was apparently flickering between blue and red the whole time. Outside, Milia took charge of the new servants, getting the house organized and food prepared. When someone tried to call me for dinner, Milia stopped them. Never disturb the master during training unless it's urgent. She was learning fast. Someone from the church came to say the Pope wanted to see me tomorrow. Milia took the message. 5 hours in, the flame finally started settling down. 9 hours total to fully absorb it. When I was done, I flicked my wrist and blue fire danced across my hand. The Thunder Rage flame, ranked 84th among extraordinary flames, was now mine. I checked my fire talent. Only 3 points. For a moment, I'd been excited about learning a dual lightning fire combat technique, but realistically, I should stick with pure lightning for now. Maybe someday, if my fire talent grew higher. I stepped out of the training room and found Milia waiting by the door. Master, the church sent someone. The Pope wants you to visit him tomorrow. Got it. I figured the Pope wanted to see me about the Thunderpool scale python egg, which was perfect since I didn't know how to tame it anyway. I'd go early tomorrow morning, but tonight I wanted to forge. Then something incredible happened. The system gave me an elemental critical hit. Every single elemental talent went up by 1 point. Even space and time, which I'd never had before. My lightning hit 12, and now I had 1 point each in gold, light, dark, space, and time. The space and time ones were absurd. Those are legendary level talents. I hoped this kind of critical hit would happen more often. I went to the forging room, which had clearly been set up specifically for me. The ceiling could open up, letting me absorb starlight to power the star-plucking furnace. I loaded up the Thunder Rage flame and got to work. The difference was staggering. I coated my purple Thunder Diamond hammer with the blue flame and started refining. The materials never cooled down once throughout the entire process. It was so smooth I lost myself in it. When I snapped back to reality, 4 hours had passed, and I'd created a sword blank refined 11 times, a perfect magic-grade piece. That would have been unthinkable before. The extraordinary flame made forging absurdly efficient. Shaping, polishing, and assembly took just 30 more minutes. I finished before sunrise, had time to bathe and eat breakfast, then headed to the Pope's hall right as the sun came up. The Pope was sitting in his chair, chin resting on one hand, smiling at me. He looked so young it was hard to believe he wasn't my age. You found the Thunderpool scale python egg, I assume? I pulled it out. He seemed surprised I'd actually brought it with me. Why'd you bring it here? Because I need you to tell me how to tame a mythical beast like this, he laughed. Getting bolder every day, aren't you? Creatures at this level can't be tamed normally. You need a blood contract, he explained. Every day for 49 days, I had to drip my blood onto the egg and draw a special contract circle on it. The egg had to stay within 10 meters of me at all times. Eating, sleeping, training, everything. After 49 days, it would hatch, and the creature would see me as its only family. But the bond was built on genuine emotion. If I was insincere, the beast would sense it. It sounded risky, relying on feelings instead of force. But normal contracts couldn't hold a beast at this level. Feelings were the only option. So, can you teach me the blood contract technique? I asked. You're just going to ask outright like that? You weren't planning to teach me? For free? Yes. Can you? He laughed. He'd been trying to tease me, but I wasn't the type to be intimidated. The Pope handed me an old piece of parchment with the blood contract method. Then his expression turned serious. Something bad happened. After your fight with Xingxin, she underwent a major change. She awakened the other side of the angel soul, the fallen angel soul. He explained that only someone extremely evil, selfish, cruel, and cold could awaken it. The fallen angel soul was incredibly dark, but also incredibly powerful, maybe 10 times stronger than I imagined. She escaped the church, he said. I froze. What do you mean she escaped? 2 days ago, she awakened the fallen angel talent. Despite her injuries, most of them healed instantly. She killed everyone in her room and fled. I could hear the disappointment in his voice. He'd wanted to replace her as heir, but he'd still hoped she could serve the church. He never expected her to go this far, to literally become a fallen angel. Be careful, he warned. She'll come after you. Watch for ambushes when you're on missions. Then he shifted topics. I'm planning to send you to the military for experience. You've probably already guessed, I want you as my successor. But your reputation in the church isn't strong enough yet. You need military achievements. I was a bit stunned. He'd just told me to be careful, and now he wanted to throw me onto a battlefield? He reassured me that the church was mostly neutral. Our military mostly hunted monsters, rarely clashing with other nations. Though it did happen sometimes, since S-rank talent holders who became kings had a high chance of going insane. When do I go? In about 6 months. Use that time to keep growing. 6 months of growth would make me terrifyingly strong. I was satisfied with that timeline. He also gave me a green bag that could store living things and had a special magic space inside, perfect for the python eggs development. I took it gratefully. Every visit to the Pope's Hall, I walked away with something valuable. After leaving, I went straight to the library. I was a night class, which meant I'd get natural bonuses learning writing techniques. On the 4th floor, I found 2 lightning element beast taming arts suitable for knights. Wild Thunder Beast Art boosts lightning magic, strength, and stamina for both rider and mount. Cloud Flash Beast Art boosts lightning magic, agility, and stamina. One was power-focused, the other speed-focused. I picked Cloud Flash. My mount's slow speed had been dragging down mission efficiency. Speed was what I needed most. On my way out, people kept recognizing me and wanting to chat. Even the checkout clerk gushed about my tournament performance. I smiled politely and kept moving. I headed to the classroom area to find a riding instructor. I found the perfect match, Master Gyuden, level 67, specializing in Cloud Flash Beast Art. 3 class credits per hour, minimum Viscount rank required, appointment needed. This one, I said. We'll notify Master Gyuden and send you the appointment time. Back home, I took out the python egg and the parchment the Pope gave me. The drawing on it wasn't a magic circle, it was a creature. Simple lines, but unsettling. It looked like something not fully evolved, with an octopus-like head, tentacles, and lifeless eyes, kind of like the Cthulhu from old legends. It didn't feel like something good, but I trusted the Pope. I cut my finger and carefully drew the pattern on the egg with my blood. Once finished, the blood image faded and disappeared, like the egg absorbed it. Fascinating. I placed the egg in the special green bag the Pope gave me and continued training. Master Gyuden saw my name on his appointment list the next day. Being a marquis, my request was flagged in bold red, highest priority. He recognized my name from the tournament and immediately moved me to the front of the schedule. That evening, I forged another 11 times refined magic weapon. The Thunder Rage Flame was ridiculously easy to control. I couldn't understand why people said extraordinary flames were difficult to handle. Maybe my lightning affinity was just that high. Starting tomorrow night, I'd try forging hero-grade equipment. The next day, I went to visit Quinn. He could tell immediately that I'd grown stronger. Let me see where you're at now, he said. We squared off. Before we even started, his expression was dead serious. He told me later that I no longer felt like a resilient blade of grass. I was a towering tree, immovable. He realized we were equals now and couldn't hold back anymore. For the first time ever, Quinn attacked first. His strikes were ferocious, trying to overwhelm me. I countered calmly, without panic. Our swords clashed with sharp, ringing sounds. Patsy could only watch from a distance. The exchange was too fast for her to follow. Quinn was the most shocked of all. My swordsmanship had become incredibly polished despite only a couple months of practice. He couldn't find openings. And my raw power, every swing forced him to use everything he had just to keep his sword from flying out of his hands. This was just my basic attacks. No buffs, no techniques. After about 15 minutes, he could barely hold his weapon. He was about to surrender when I stopped. Let's call it here for today, he froze, then understood. I was protecting his dignity by not forcing him to admit defeat. He smiled at that. By the way, Quinn, I brought you something. What is it? I pulled out a bunch of high-grade magic beast meat from my spatial ring and gave it to Quinn. The church was delivering so much every day that I couldn't possibly eat it all. I told him to have Patsy come pick some up from my place daily. Quinn was surprised. He knew long-term consumption of beast meat could greatly improve a person's body, but it was expensive and required consistent use. He also knew that I had no practical reason to help him anymore. He couldn't really teach me anything at this point. I could have traded those resources for things I actually needed, but that's not who I am. He'd help me when I needed it, and I don't forget that. He hesitated, but accepted. Thank you. No need for that between us, I said. After that, I rushed to my writing lesson. The days were really blending together, non-stop activity. When I met my writing instructor, Master Gyuden, I was genuinely shocked. He was the skinniest person I'd ever seen, literally skin and bones, and he looked about 70 years old. Turns out he was only 28. He'd pushed his body too hard from a young age, which aged him severely. He had a cold expression, like a grumpy old man. He looked at me like he couldn't understand how someone who looked so pampered could achieve so much. I couldn't blame him. Life had been harsh on him. You want to learn Cloud Flash Beast art? How far along are you? He asked. I just started studying it 2 days ago. I tried connecting with my mount yesterday, but couldn't form the link. He nodded, unsurprised. It's probably because you don't see your mount as a real partner. You're thinking of it as temporary, something to use until you find something better. Am I right? He was dead on. My Thunder Warhorse's stats were just too low for the long term. Yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking, I admitted. That's normal. Most people are like that. But there's another way to form the connection besides genuine emotional bonding. Absolute submission through fear. If your mount fears you enough to understand your every intention instinctively, you've succeeded. I was a bit taken aback. That sounded pretty dark. He noticed my expression. You think it's cruel? I nodded slightly. I understood this was probably common in this world, but it wasn't really my style. He didn't get annoyed. He actually seemed to appreciate my reaction, saying that most people with my level of talent tend to be violent. My gentler temperament was unusual. Don't worry about it. Beasts are naturally brutal creatures. Trying to empathize with them is actually the harder path. Most people just choose control. I'll teach you the proper methods. What you do with them is up to you. I understand. By the way, Master Gyuden, how do you control your own mount? My beast and I are connected through true understanding, Gyuden said. That's what real beast masters do, no shortcuts. But early on, I used force with low-level mounts because their intelligence was too low to understand kindness. That made sense. For beasts, intelligence scales with strength. He then taught me the basics of Cloud Flash Beast art. Unlike regular combat training, you have to sit on your mount while practicing. You guide the beast to cultivate alongside you, constantly exchanging magic energy back and forth. It sounded strange, but that's how rider and mount truly become one in battle. At the highest levels, a knight can literally fuse with their mount. This was nothing like the simple cavalry I'd imagined. It was closer to beast taming. That made me realize my Thunder Warhorse really wasn't going to cut it long term. Still, when I got home, I chose to be kind to it. I fed it good food, brushed its mane, bathed it, spent most of my time near it, and even slept on its back sometimes. Simple things. Partly because violence isn't my nature, and partly because I was practicing patience. I need these habits when the Thunderpool scale python hatched. 3 days later, I visited Hetty, Sansa, and Saga. Sansa was mostly recovered. Hetty was doing much better, laughing and chatting with me. Saga was already out of bed. Seeing everyone improving put me at ease. Then I settled into a routine. A month later, my stats had grown by another 19 strength, 18 agility, 20 constitution, 19 spirit, plus 1 point each in lightning talent, lifespan, and charisma. I'd reached level 42, though leveling was slowing down past 40. I never even trained magic power deliberately. It just grew naturally, like my body was expanding on its own. My forging had improved dramatically thanks to the Thunder Rage Flame. I couldn't make glorious-grade equipment yet, but my hero-grade work was excellent. Lightning Fong had been upgraded repeatedly and was now equivalent to a 10 times refined hero weapon. Basic hero weapons would shatter after about 100 clashes with it. The blade was now 2 meters long and twice as wide, practically a greatsword. My Thunder Warhorse had reached Tier 4, level 44. Through daily care and communication, we'd formed a genuine bond and could now practice the beast art together. I'd also discovered that a mount's growth is tied to its rider. If the rider is exceptional, the mount's potential increases too. That made me even more excited for the day the python would hatch. Today was my 13th match at the Coliseum. My reputation had grown so big that tickets sold out whenever I fought. The crowd was chanting my name as I walked in. Clan, clan, tear them apart. I bet on you. Don't lose. I'd beaten opponents 15 levels above me without a single loss. I looked across the arena. For level 57 berserk hunting hounds were released from their cages. For mutant beasts at once. I wasn't worried. I calmly drew Lightning Fong and waited. I deliberately made Lightning Fong bigger, 2 meters long now. Higher level beasts have massive bodies, so a bigger weapon is necessary to deal real damage. A short blade might cut through armor, but not penetrate deep enough to hit anything vital. The 4 berserk hunting hounds charged at me. Each was over 6 meters long, brownish red, with messy fur, ugly faces, and a horrible stench. They were called hunting hounds because beyond raw strength, they had high intelligence and used actual tactics. The more of them there were, the more dangerous they became. The threat grew exponentially. They split up immediately and moved to surround me from 4 corners. I wasn't about to let that happen. I charged the one in the upper left before they could complete the encirclement. The other 3 rushed toward me, but with my lightning body active, I was faster. The hound I targeted didn't run. These creatures don't back down from a direct challenge. The scene must have looked absurd from the stands. A hideous, stinking monster versus a handsome teenager with a giant sword. My blade came down and sliced clean through its front leg. I went for the legs on purpose. Past level 50, these beasts have skulls hard enough to damage even Lightning Fong, and getting the blade stuck in a skull would be a disaster. Their legs were the weak point, thin compared to their massive heads, though still thicker than my whole body. The hound screamed and collapsed. I stepped on its head, leaped away as the other 3 crashed into each other, then circled back and cut off the downed one's rear legs too. After that, I just played with them. Dodge, slash a leg, dodge again, strike. Every hit was devastating, and I never took a scratch. 20 minutes later, all 4 were dead. 0 damage taken. The crowd went absolutely crazy. Clan, 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 I love you. I wiped my hands calmly and walked off the field. What I didn't know was that the Pope had been watching from a VIP room with someone, a towering figure in full armor, nearly 1.9 meters tall. When they spoke, a cool female voice came from behind the helmet. He's impressive. At his age, I was about the same level. The Pope smiled. He's been growing too smoothly, though, and he's never had a proper teacher. I think you should be that teacher. She was quiet for a moment. Fine. But after I'm done training him, I'll be leaving the church to do that thing. The Pope's smile deepened. Meanwhile, I left the arena through the VIP corridor. Sophia was waiting outside as usual. I'd realized she was actually useful. Her presence kept other women from pestering me, so I let her stick around. She knew it too, but didn't seem discouraged. It was still progress in her eyes. As we walked through the corridor, I turned a corner and found myself staring at what looked like a wall. I looked up. It wasn't a wall. It was a person in full armor, towering over me. This corridor was restricted to top fighters or very important people. Whoever this was, they were here for me. I watched your fight, a cold female voice said. Your talent is excellent and your strength is impressive, but your technique is rough. You need a good teacher. I was surprised. The voice behind that massive armor was a woman's. I silently scolded myself for assuming otherwise. Who are you? Why are you telling me this? You don't need to know who I am yet. Draw your sword, boy. An iron sword appeared in her hand. I told Sophia to step back, then drew Lightning Fong. But the moment I truly faced this woman, I felt like I was staring at an immovable mountain. The gap between us was even bigger than when I first met Quinn. I couldn't move. My body was frozen. Then the pressure vanished. I nearly collapsed, my forehead dripping with sweat. She'd simply pulled her aura back. Attack me, she said. I charged. She swung once, casually, and somehow I knew with absolute certainty that her blade would hit me and I'd die. That feeling paralyzed me completely. I stopped mid-attack, and her iron sword tapped my wrist. Lightning Fong clattered to the ground. Feel the gap? I was still in shock. This person was on a level I couldn't even comprehend. Want to learn swordsmanship from me? I was suspicious at first, but I quickly realized Someone this far above me had nothing to gain from tricking me. If she wanted something, it was my future potential. Then it clicked. Did the Pope send you? Smart kid. But I wasn't sent. Remember this. The Pope and I are equals. Equals with the Pope. That one sentence told me everything about how powerful she was. I'll learn from you. I said. Good. Come to the Pope's hall tomorrow morning. I'll rebuild your swordsmanship from scratch. She left. I stared at her back, burning with curiosity about her true identity. That night I tried forging, but I couldn't focus. That single strike she'd used to disarm me kept replaying in my mind. I gave up and went to bed. The next morning, I rushed to the Pope's hall. She was already waiting in the open space out front. All the usual guards were gone. You're earlier than I expected. Good. Draw your sword. I've seen your strength. Now the real training begins. I pulled out lightning fong and swung once at her command. The blade cut through the air so hard it created a sonic boom, even though it didn't hit anything. She watched with cold eyes. Your fundamentals are solid, but you haven't found your own style. My own style? Strong basics matter, but style matters just as much. Some swordsmen are fast. Some are heavy. Some overwhelm opponents with intricate techniques. These are all styles. Your swordsmanship right now is too textbook, perfectly standard, with zero personality. I stood there thinking. She was right, but finding my own style on the spot? I had no idea where to start. She watched me think and didn't interrupt. I started experimenting. First I swung a heavy, crushing strike, powerful but slow, with too much energy cost. Then a lightning-fast slash that most people wouldn't even see, but it lacked real power. Over the next half hour, I tried every style imaginable. Heavy, fast, technical, tricky. I could pull off all of them. The armored woman watched silently. I could tell she was impressed at first, then genuinely shocked. She hadn't expected me to master every style so easily. Then I swung one more time. A completely ordinary strike, identical to my very first one. And the moment I did it, something clicked. A feeling of satisfaction washed over me. This was it. I'm a balanced fighter. All my stats are high. Committing to one extreme style would mean weakening other areas. And for me, that would actually be a downgrade. What I needed was a sword strike that combined speed, power, and technique equally. No weaknesses. Trained to absolute perfection. I found my path, I told her. Show me. I swung that same plain, balanced strike. She stared. That's what you came up with? Yes. This is my path. She was frustrated. She'd just watched me demonstrate talent for every sword style in existence, and I chose the most ordinary-looking one. She thought I was wasting my gift. You're throwing away your talent. I've already tried everything else. This is what fits me best, she asked again. And again. I told her she could ask 1,000 times. My answer wouldn't change. She was clearly angry, but she held it together. Fine. Your choice. Don't come crying to me later. I'll still teach you as promised. I was surprised she didn't walk away. Either the Pope's influence was that strong, or she was simply a person who kept her word. I decided it was the latter. Truly powerful people tend to be reasonable. She calmed down and asked me to explain my reasoning. I told her honestly. Every specialized style has strengths, but also undeniable flaws. Only the basic, balanced strike has no weaknesses. If I can perfect it to the highest possible level, it becomes the ultimate technique. She went quiet. Then I could sense her understanding shift. She realized I wasn't lacking ambition. I had too much of it. I was chasing perfection itself. She probably still thought I was being naive, but she decided to let me try and fail before pushing back. If that's what you want, then try it. She asked about my training routine. When I told her, she said my efficiency was too low and led me to a special room. This room has double the normal gravity. Training here will multiply your results. Once you adapt, the gravity can be increased further. I was excited. A gravity training room, just like in manga and anime. This place had everything. One thing, the room's usage fee comes out of your own points. I'm not paying for you. That was fair. She and the Pope had agreed that I shouldn't have everything handed to me. Earning my own way would make me value it more. I had no complaints. Making money was never hard for me. I stepped into the gravity room and immediately felt heavier. After loosening up, I found I could still move freely. The double gravity made a huge difference. About 3,000 sword swings felt like 10,000 in normal conditions. My regular training had actually become too easy, which explained why my stat growth had slowed down this past month. Even at double gravity, I completed everything. When I walked out, the instant lightness felt amazing. The armored woman was waiting. How was it? Manageable. Maybe I should try triple gravity tomorrow. Fine. Now, next exercise. She had me swim across a raging river within a time limit. A test of explosive speed and power. I passed on the first try. She wasn't surprised, but kept adding weights to my arms and legs. Once I was carrying about 100 kilograms, I finally failed to make the time. The rest of the day was nothing but intense basic training, far beyond anything I'd ever done before. By the end, my mind was hazy. I passed out on the way home. It reminded me of Quinn's early training sessions, except worse. Meanwhile, the Pope asked the woman how the training went. His talent, work ethic, and ambition are all top tier. At this rate, he could eventually catch up to me, or surpass me. The Pope was shocked. He knew how proud she was. She'd never praised anyone before. But he's missing something, she added. What? A strong rival, the Pope sighed. She was right. Without competition, even geniuses lose their drive. Shengxin was supposed to fill that role, but she was gone now. Then the Pope looked at the woman with a strange expression. Why are you looking at me like that? You'd make a perfect rival for Clan. You look about his age. Just take off the armor and pretend to be a fellow student. He'd never recognize you. The woman, Ilya, was speechless at how ridiculous this idea was. But the Pope knew she was softer than she appeared. Fine, I'll try it, she said. Great. Take off that heavy armor tomorrow. You're too beautiful to hide behind all that steel. The next day, I arrived for training and froze. Standing where the armored giant had been was a stunning girl with white hair and blue eyes. Her figure was incredible. The bulky armor had completely hidden it. I couldn't help staring. Keep looking and I'll gouge your eyes out. Sorry. I'm not your teacher. My name is Ilya. Your teacher is my cousin. She had to leave for something, so I'm supervising your training. Same exercises as yesterday, plus sparring with me afterward. I was suspicious. This cousin was the exact same height, had the exact same voice, and gave off the exact same pressure. Cousins? Really? I was pretty sure it was the same person. I decided to trust her for now. There was no real reason for her to lie. When I entered the gravity room, she followed me in. It's a waste for you to use this big room alone. I'll train alongside you and keep an eye on your form. She seemed cold on the outside, but was actually pretty friendly. I didn't mind the company. When she pulled out her weapon, I froze. It was a massive black iron greatsword, nearly 4 meters long and 1 meter wide. It looked like something no human should be able to lift. In this world, oversized weapons were actually the norm at higher levels. But seeing this girl who looked my age casually holding one was something else. Can I try it? I asked. Sure. She held it out to me with one hand. I grabbed the handle with both hands. Ready? I'm letting go. The moment she released it, the sword tip slammed into the floor with a deafening crash. My veins popped out. My skin turned red from straining. The weight was unbelievable. Even with my 200-plus strength, I couldn't hold it up. It kept pushing me down. Ilya just watched without helping. She was still annoyed about my ordinary sword style choice from yesterday. After 10 seconds, I let go and jumped clear. The sword crashed to the ground. Is this your actual combat weapon or a training weapon? I asked, stunned. My actual weapon, obviously. Who'd waste materials this good on a practice sword? I couldn't imagine her swinging this thing in a real battle without collapsing from exhaustion. What's your talent? How old are you? I'm 26. As for my talent, call me Big Sister Ilya first, and I'll tell you. Something about this felt off. She looked my age at most. But the way she just casually held that impossible sword proved she was far beyond any normal teenager. I struggled with it, but finally forced the words out. Ilya. Big sister, she grinned. Louder. Didn't you eat breakfast? You're older than me, and you're going to be training me. Calling you big sister makes sense, doesn't it? She had a point. I took a breath and said it properly. Big sister Ilya. Happy now? Tell me your talent. She nodded, satisfied. It's S rank. Titan bloodline. That explained everything. The height, the superhuman strength. With Titan blood, wielding that monster sword with one hand made perfect sense. Enough questions. Time to train. I started my sword swings at triple gravity. The difficulty skyrocketed. After just 1,000 swings, I already felt like I'd done 8 or 9,000 at double gravity. By 4,000, I couldn't feel my arms anymore. For the first time, I genuinely wondered, Could I actually finish 10,000 swings under these conditions? I glanced over at Ilya and saw her swinging that impossibly heavy greatsword under triple gravity like it was nothing. That sight lit a fire in me. I kept going. 5,500 swings. 6,500. My consciousness started fading. It was hard to believe something as basic as swinging a sword could push me this close to passing out. But Ilya didn't stop me. She believed that breaking through your limits was how you grew fast. It's how she'd reached the Pope's level. What she didn't know was that this method happened to be perfect for me too, just for different reasons. My body had been storing and used magic energy that only got released when I pushed past my limits. The same thing happened during the Thunder Canyon trip. Extreme exhaustion triggered hidden reserves, which is why I grew so fast during recovery afterward. By afternoon, I completed my 10,000th swing. I had no consciousness left at that point, pure muscle memory and willpower carrying me through. Only then did Ilya finally step in and stop me. I collapsed into her arms, completely limp. Because she was so tall, I probably looked tiny against her. She picked me up and carried me to a recovery room, basically a healing hot spring. She used my badge to pay for a mid-tier room at 500 points per hour. Then she stripped off all my clothes and dropped me in the water. Pretty pale, she apparently commented before walking away. 2 hours later, I woke up in the spring, my clothes scattered everywhere. I immediately knew who'd undressed me. That woman had zero shame. I dried off, changed into fresh clothes from my storage ring, and stepped out. Ilya was sitting cross-legged nearby, meditating. When she opened her eyes, those blue pupils looked like a galaxy for a split second. I froze. She seemed to freeze too, staring at me, skin still flushed from the hot water, droplets running down my neck. She swallowed hard, then snapped out of it. Next exercise, she said quickly. We moved on to the river speed training. I performed worse than yesterday because of how drained I was, but Ilya didn't go easy on me. By evening, I barely finished the basic training. I could hardly stand. The system gave me a strength point, but I was too exhausted to care. That's enough for today? You're not in shape for sparring. I nodded weakly, went home, skipped dinner, and passed out on my bed. The next day I showed up in a white outfit, fully recovered. To avoid ruining another set of clothes, I took off my shirt before entering the gravity room. Ilya seemed startled, but told me to do whatever I wanted. My progress that day was noticeable. I made it to 8,000 swings before losing focus, compared to blacking out much earlier the day before. After a full week of this brutal routine, I'd finally adapted to the training. The gains were incredible for just 7 days. Strength 9, Agility 10, Constitution 11, Spirit 11. My thunder calling technique also felt close to breaking through to the next level. I needed to take a day off for the Colosseum and forging. My points were draining fast from the gravity room and recovery springs. Ilya agreed surprisingly easily. What match number are you tomorrow? She asked. You want to come watch? How many times do I have to tell you? Call me Big Sister. I'm the last match of the day. She clenched her fist, annoyed that I wouldn't call her sister without getting something in return. That evening, for the first time, I actually had enough energy left for sparring practice. I was curious about Ilya's real strength. Then she pulled out that enormous black iron greatsword. You're using that against me? Did I offend you somehow? Yes, you did, she said flatly. Then I apologize. Do you know what you did wrong? No, really? Really. The greatsword came crashing down. I barely dodged in time. If that thing hit me, I'd be a pancake. She kept attacking. What was supposed to be sparring turned into a pure dodge and survive exercise. I couldn't block something that heavy, so I just kept evading. My reaction speed was top tier, so I managed to avoid everything until the very last swing. I was too exhausted and couldn't move fast enough. The massive blade stopped exactly 1 centimeter from my face. My heart nearly stopped, but it proved one thing. Ilya had perfect control over that weapon. She could stop on a dime. She looked at my terrified face and said, Are you about to cry? I was annoyed by Ilya's teasing, but I couldn't beat her yet, so I swallowed it. Someday when I surpassed her, I'd get my revenge. The sparring turned into another hour of me dodging her great sword until every last drop of energy was gone. That's it for today. Rest up. Training continues the day after tomorrow. I'll come watch your match tomorrow. And remember, call me Big Sister. I dragged myself home, ate a mountain of beast meat to recover, and collapsed. The next morning, I spent the day forging. 9 days without touching a hammer, but the moment I picked it up, everything felt natural. My increased strength made the work faster and smoother. By 8 p.m., I'd completed a 7 times refined hero-grade weapon. I gave it to Milia to deliver to the blacksmith guild tomorrow with a message that I'd been doing special training. My level had jumped to 46, 4 levels in just a few days, thanks to all that hidden magic energy being unlocked through the extreme training. But it also meant my Colosseum opponents would be tougher. The arena's rules capped opponents at level 60 until you crossed that threshold yourself. Beyond 60, monsters became an entirely different class of threat. Even A-rank talents struggled to beat anything over level 60 while being lower level. So tonight would still be level 60 enemies, just potentially more of them or nastier types. When I arrived, Eugene, the organizer, looked relieved I'd shown up on time. Tonight's opponent is special, clan. Be careful. That made me take notice. If Eugene was warning me personally, tonight was going to be serious. I did my level test, rested for half an hour, then walked out into the arena. The crowd erupted as usual, but standing there under the lights, I felt a strange disconnect. I'd been training with Ilya non-stop, pushing myself to the absolute limit every day, and yet the gap between us hadn't shrunk at all. She was 10 years older with an S-rank talent, but still, it was frustrating. I couldn't see any hope of catching up in the short term. And if Ilya was this strong, how powerful had Xingxin become with her fallen angel soul? According to the Pope, that was among the strongest S-rank talents in existence. I pushed those thoughts aside and focused on the cage across the arena, waiting to see what special opponent they'd prepared for me tonight. My opponents were revealed, 2 berserk boar men, both level 60. Human-shaped monsters are the hardest to fight because they're much smarter than regular beasts. They have their own societies, and if raised among humans, their intelligence would be only slightly below ours. These 2 carried weapons, a giant hammer and a battle axe. Clearly power types. Ilya was watching from the VIP seats. She probably knew instantly these things were no match for me anymore. My training with her hadn't just raised my raw stats. My reaction speed, danger sense, combat awareness, and willpower had all improved. Most importantly, I could now use my strength much more efficiently. Before, I was probably only utilizing about 30 to 40% of my actual power in combat. Now it was over 50%. The boarmen charged at me in a blind rage. They hated humans. Being captured and caged every day had pushed their hatred to the extreme. I was a little disappointed. Normally, humanoid creatures would coordinate and use tactics. But these 2 had lost their heads to anger. The axe came down. I shifted my body slightly and dodged. Too slow. Way too slow compared to Ilya's attacks. Nothing but openings. The hammer followed. Same thing. I sidestepped, then slashed the hammer wielder's arm clean off before he could pull back. 10 days ago, I couldn't have cut through an arm that thick so easily. But my sword control had improved dramatically. I didn't waste any more time. 1 horizontal slash cut the first boarman in half at the waist. The second one came to its senses slightly, attacking with a bit more strategy. It didn't matter. 2 strikes to sever its weapon arm, 1 more to take its head. The whole fight was over in moments. The crowd went insane. Eugene, the arena manager, looked stunned. They'd tested these boarmen against 4 regular beasts of the same level. The boarmen won with only 1 casualty. Yet I'd handled both like it was nothing. He was starting to believe I might achieve something impossible, an unbroken winning streak in the Colosseum. Walking back through the exit tunnel, I glanced at the bodies, then at my own hands. When had I become this strong? It almost felt boring. Ilya's image flashed through my mind. She'd be my new benchmark. She was 10 years ahead of me. I wondered how long it would take to close that gap. Sophia appeared in the corridor and rushed over. Clan, where have you been? I never see you anymore. She knew I'd been going to the Pope's Hall every day, but she didn't have clearance to know what I was doing there. I found a new teacher, I told her. So I've been training at the Pope's Hall every day. Sophia was shaken just hearing that I was studying at the Pope's Hall. She could tell the gap between us was widening. She looked at me and seemed to notice how much I'd changed, not just in strength and status, but even my appearance. She once asked if I'd learned some face-changing technique. Do you have someone you like? She asked again. Faces flashed through my mind. Sophia, Julia, Nina, Katrin. I'd met so many people. But honestly, the person I cared about most was myself. I'd admire beautiful women, sure, but real romantic feelings? Not yet. In this world, putting yourself first isn't selfish, it's survival. She offered to walk me home after training in the future, but I told her my sessions ended too late. She walked me back that night and left looking a little sad. Back at training the next day, something had shifted inside me. I trained like my life depended on it. Ilya noticed. She realized I was looking at her differently now, not with the softness of a student toward a mentor, but with the sharp eyes of a rival. She'd become my target to surpass. That was supposed to be the whole point, but apparently it didn't sit perfectly well with her. 9 days later, I skipped training because today was the day. I sat in front of the Thunder Pool scale python egg and dripped my blood onto it one final time, drawing that strange creature pattern. The blood was absorbed, and then the shell started shaking. Outside, the weather went berserk. Clear skies turned pitch black with ominous red light flickering through the clouds. It felt like the end of the world. Everyone with any power in Holy Light City turned to look toward the church. The Pope opened his eyes and murmured, "So it's finally being born." I trusted him to handle any trouble. He knew today was the day. A tiny crack appeared at the top of the shell. Through it, I saw a pair of small black eyes cautiously peeking out at the world. Then a white little head burst through, followed by a slender body slowly crawling out. I was completely caught off guard by how adorable it was. Except for the nose, the baby python looked almost like a hog-nosed snake. Huge round eyes, a pure white body, and a tiny mouth. It was genuinely cute. I reached out instinctively. The little snake felt an immediate bond with me and climbed right up my arm, coiling around it. I couldn't help petting it. It closed its eyes with a contented expression. Then it climbed back down, returned to the broken eggshell, and started crunching on it. I wasn't surprised when the baby python started eating its own eggshell. Most top-tier beasts do that for the nutrients. What amazed me was how it could chew through something harder than the toughest oars I'd ever seen. I needed a name for it. I almost went with Little White, since I'm terrible at naming things, but it would change color as it grew. Then a flash of purple lightning crackled across its tiny scales, and I had it. Zilin, purple scale. After it finished eating, it crawled up my body and slipped inside my shirt. Its body was ice cold, like holding a block of ice, but there was no slime or anything gross. It was actually comfortable. I looked at my Thunder Warhorse outside and thought, retirement was coming soon for that one. I went to the Pope's hall to report the birth. He stared at my chest the moment I walked in. "Let me see it." I pulled the little snake out. The Pope's eyes lit up when he saw the cute, sleeping baby. When it woke up and saw unfamiliar surroundings, it immediately went into defensive mode, head raised, alert. Then it realized it was still in my hands and relaxed, looking up at me with big, pitiful eyes. The blood contract worked well. "This child really likes you," the Pope said, smiling. After that, I went back to my routine. 90 days of training flew by. The changes were massive. I could now complete all exercises under 7 times gravity with ease. Here were my current stats. Level had climbed significantly. Strength, 343. Agility, 316. Constitution, 340. Spirit, 321. My lightning talent had reached 16, and my thunder calling technique had maxed out, meaning I could now learn a higher level combat art to replace it. Lightning Fong had been refined 13 times, just one short of the hero grade limit. My forging talent was at 24, and I'd saved up 400,000 points through forging sales and Coliseum win streaks. Ilya watched me finish training and said it was time for the next phase. "Get ready. Tomorrow, you and I are going somewhere. It's time for the next stage of your training. You can go home for now." I was curious but didn't press her. Instead, I went to the library's 5th floor to find a replacement for my maxed-out thunder calling technique. After browsing 11 lightning element combat arts, I narrowed it down to 3 that suited me, and one immediately stood out. Wild Thunder Body Shaking Art. That was the one. The reason I chose the Wild Thunder Body Shaking Art was simple. The prerequisite was having a maxed-out thunder calling technique, which I'd just achieved. It cost 150,000 points, well within my budget. I started practicing immediately and managed to learn the basics in just 4 hours, thanks to my foundation and my 16-point lightning talent. I could already feel my lightning magic becoming more violent and explosive, and this was only the entry level. Zilin, My thunderpool scale python had grown to about 3 meters long and as thick as an adult's calf. It still loved wrapping around my body. Honestly, it was starting to feel like actual python constriction. This thing could already crush cow bones with a gentle squeeze. But what could I do? I chose to raise it, so I just kept petting its cool, white scales. The next morning, I met Ilya at the Pope's Hall. She led me out of the church, then out of Holy Light City entirely. Once outside, she whistled. A white appeared in the distant sky, growing rapidly. It was a dragon. A massive silver-white dragon, 50 meters long, with flowing curves and gleaming scales. The sight was overwhelming. You have Titan bloodline, and your mount is a dragon, I said, bewildered. Titans and dragons were supposed to be mortal enemies. Ilya just smirked. Impressive, right? The silver dragon landed and immediately locked eyes on Zilin, coiled around my body. Dragons and thunderpool scale pythons were both apex creatures in this world. Pythons were actually stronger than most dragons. Only the purest-blooded dragons could match them. The dragon was clearly nervous. Ilya calmed it down with a gentle touch, and we climbed on. After half a day of flying, the scenery shifted. A thick smell of blood filled the air. We landed in front of a massive, pitch-black building radiating dread. "Welcome to the death prison," Ilya said. My stomach dropped. Just looking at it felt wrong. "This is where you'll be living for the next 3 months. Surprised? Do I really have to stay here for 3 months? Yes. And one more thing. If you're not careful in there, you can actually die." She wasn't lying. I'd later learned that the death prison operated under special laws of power. The more enemies you killed, the higher their level, and the longer you stayed, the deeper these laws would affect you. The growth it produced was beyond description. "Did you come here too?" I asked. "Yes, but I trained for a full year before I came. She brought me here after just 3 months. I wasn't sure whether to feel honored or terrified. "Let's go in," she said, pulling me toward the entrance. The prison doors opened the moment Ilya approached, like the building recognized her. A wave of blood smell hit me so hard I almost gagged. The floors were covered in sticky black bloodstains. Then Ilya said, "All right, I'm leaving," and walked out. The doors slammed shut behind her. No tutorial, no guidance. She just dropped me here. I had no choice but to keep walking. Soon I heard footsteps, and a woman in a blank mask appeared. She had a slim figure and spoke in a professional tone. "Welcome to the death prison. Here is your identity token and starting assets." The token had the number 10 on it. She explained that the currency here was called death energy. I'd need it for everything: food, shelter in the safe inner city, supplies. I could earn more by completing tasks. Without currency, I couldn't even stay in the protected areas. She led me deeper. The prison went underground. Despite being underground, there was a sky, but it was blood red and made me feel sick just looking at it. The outer city was chaos. Filthy streets, blood everywhere. In the short time we walked through, I witnessed 3 murders. The residents stared at me like I was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, but nobody attacked because the masked guide was with me. After walking half a day in a straight line, we reached the inner city. It was cleaner, no blood on the ground, better air. But still dangerous. I could see groups of men groping women while chatting casually, and screams echoed from nearby streets. As long as you can earn enough currency, you can get anything here. Resources, companions, battle pets. Whatever you want, the guide said. Staying in the inner city costs 1 death energy per day. Today is free. Good luck. She left without looking back. I started exploring. People immediately noticed me. Men stared at me with disgusting, predatory eyes. I finally understood how women feel when creepy strangers won't stop looking at them. A large woman approached me, speaking in an uncomfortably flirty voice. "First time here, cutie? Want to try a special service?" "Only 1 death energy. No thanks." She blew in my ear. "You sure? It'll feel amazing." I walked away without answering. She looked furious. Apparently nobody refused her. I'd already made an enemy on day 1. But I didn't care. Everyone in this place was here for a reason, and none of those reasons were good. More people came trying to con me out of my death energy. I ignored them all and focused on gathering information about how this place worked. The more people tried to scam me out of my death energy, the more I realized how important it was. I couldn't waste a single point until I understood how things worked here. I found the main way to earn death energy, the flesh processing workshop. You bring in human corpses, and they pay you based on the body's completeness and how strong the person was when alive. So the plan was simple: hunt people in the outer city and trade their bodies for currency. There were other ways to earn: shops, dueling arenas, various services, but fighting was why I was here. I had 3 months to get stronger, not to play businessman. And stealing someone's racket would just paint a target on my back before I was ready. I headed toward the outer city. People behind me got excited. Several started following me. Apparently, there was a hidden rule. If a newcomer voluntarily leaves the inner city's safe zone on day 1, they forfeit their first-day protection. I knew they were following. I didn't care. The moment I stepped outside, the first one rushed at me. I swung lightning fong before he could blink. He dodged partially. Fast reflexes from years of killing, but not fast enough. His arm flew off. Before he could scream for more than a second, I took his head. It rolled to my feet. I looked down at his still open eyes and felt nothing. I'd lived in hell before the church. This was just going back to what I knew. I searched his body, found his identity token, and pressed it against mine. My balance went from 10 to 17. Just as I guessed, you could steal death energy from kills. I dragged the body back to the workshop and got 3 more points. The people who'd been planning to jump me froze in their tracks. They'd thought I was easy prey. Now they were reconsidering. As I was heading back out to hunt more, a thin, clean-looking man stopped me. He was different from everyone else here. No murderous aura, just a calm, sharp presence. "It's getting late. Don't go to the outer city now," he said. "Why?" He smiled. "You're different from these animals. I like you, so I'll give you one piece of information free. After this, you'll have to pay." At night, creatures called wanderers wake up and sweep through the outer city, killing everything in their path. If you're lucky, you survive. If not, well, that was genuinely useful. I nodded. "I also have another piece of information about death energy that's very important to you. 10 death energy. First day discount." I hesitated. 10 was a lot, most of what I had. 10, not one less. This one matters. His eyes were serious. And the free tip had been real and valuable. If this turned out to be a scam, I'd just take it out of him later. Fine. Deal. I paid him the 10 death energy without hesitation. "Smart move," he laughed. "Here's the deal. At the end of every month, all your death energy gets wiped to 0. But the cleared amount converts into magic power that strengthens your body." That was huge. It meant everyone would rush to the outer city on the last day of each month for a massive killing spree, and they'd have to deal with the wanderers at the same time. My scalp tingled just thinking about it. He offered me lodging too, but I turned it down. I wanted to experience sleeping on the streets first to understand this place fully. As the sky darkened, something terrifying appeared. A black hole opened in the sky above the inner city, and a gigantic eyeball covered in blood vessels slowly emerged from it, surrounded by red chunks of flesh. It started scanning everyone below. People around me looked terrified but didn't run. They seemed to know the eye wouldn't hurt them directly. It locked onto one direction, and a horrifying scream echoed from that spot. Then the eye swept over me. For just a split second, I felt completely exposed, like it could see everything about me, inside and out. The feeling was deeply uncomfortable. Thankfully, it moved on. When night fully fell, the eye retreated into the black hole, and everything went pitch black. No sun, no moon, no light at all. Complete blindness. I immediately understood why having shelter mattered. Then it hit me. If the outer city was this dark too, how could anyone fight the wanderers? Maybe the wanderers weren't unbeatable on their own. Maybe they were terrifying because people couldn't see them coming. Sitting in total darkness, I was suddenly reminded of my childhood, being locked in a tiny black room, curled up in a corner, starving and afraid. I calmed myself the same way I did back then. This is just like before. You've survived worse, clan. Everything will be fine. I closed my eyes and sharpened my other senses. I could hear people moving carefully through the streets, others going completely silent, afraid of being found. I deliberately sat down in the middle of the road instead of against a wall. Corners and walls are where people instinctively go in darkness, which meant that's where you'd run into someone. These inmates had lived here for years. In total darkness, I wasn't sure I could beat them. The night was brutal. I heard footsteps, fumbling sounds, fighting, and other noises I'd rather not describe. But the sound that chilled me most was a set of impossibly heavy footsteps. No human could make that sound. Alongside it came the dragging of chains. I was sitting near the border with the outer city, so these were probably the Wanderers. The fact that they sounded massive made my heart sink. The system gave me a small gift, a stat critical hit, adding 1 point to all 4 base attributes. I barely survived that first night. When the red sky finally returned, I headed straight for the outer city. Daylight here only lasted about 8 hours, so every minute counted. The outer city was even more dangerous than I expected. In just the first hour, I fought 3 people. I showed no mercy. In this place, hesitation meant death. Over the next 5 hours, I had 11 more encounters, 3 of them against multiple enemies. Most of these people were broke and desperate, which is why they were out here risking their lives. Every single one of them fought like a maniac. Living here would drive anyone insane. I started wondering what I'd be like after 3 months. The most dangerous moments were leaving and returning to the inner city. That's when ambushers waited to rob exhausted hunters. Sure enough, someone attacked me right at the gate on my way back. I'd been ready for it. After a short fight, I killed him and dragged his body to the workshop. Today's total haul, 42 death energy from corpses, bringing me to 104. I found the thin man from yesterday and bought lodging for 2 death energy per night and 10 pounds of beast meat for 1. The meat was unprocessed and smelled terrible, but I used my Thunder Rage flame to carefully burn out the toxins and impurities, then roasted it. It tasted awful, but I wasn't in a position to complain. The lodging was literally a prison cell, 1 bed, iron bars for a door, barely enough room to move. I accepted it. At least I could train during the 16 hours of darkness instead of sitting in the street. Days passed, and I discovered patterns. Daylight hours gradually increased from 8 to 16 during the first half of the month, then decreased back down. People who hunted humans in the outer city were called hunters, the most feared and hated group in the whole prison. I was one of them now. On the last day of the month, I watched my death energy counter slowly tick down to 0. As each point vanished, tiny black specks appeared around me, swirling through the air. This was the conversion, all that accumulated death energy transforming into power that would strengthen my body. The black specks drilled into my body one by one. I'd accumulated 2,410 death energy, not because I'd slowed down, but because the prison population was shrinking faster than new inmates arrived. Each speck stung going in, but when it was over, I checked my stats. All 4 base attributes had jumped by 24 points just from the death energy conversion alone. That meant roughly every 100 death energy gave 1 point to each stat. Incredible. My total gains for the month were massive. Strength 59, Agility 63, Constitution 61, Spirit 55, plus 2 points in sword talent, 1 in hammer, and 1 in charisma. My stats now sat at Strength 402, Agility 379, Constitution 401, Spirit 376. Sword talent had reached 17, and charisma hit 89. Even after nearly a month without bathing, my high charisma meant I still looked decent underneath the grime. But my eyes had changed. They were sharper, colder, filled with killing intent that made people flinch just for my contact. I'd built a reputation here. People offered themselves to me for protection, but I refused every time. After a month of constant scams, robberies, and seduction attempts, I trusted nobody. On the last day of the month, everyone filed out to the outer city. Nobody fought right away. We all had 0 death energy, so killing was pointless. Plus, we'd need our strength for the Wanderers tonight. The thin man found me and offered to let me join his group. He'd figured out I wasn't a death row inmate, but someone here for training. He said his team was full of people like me. I turned him down. I prefer being alone. He didn't push it. I spent the day searching for a hiding spot in the outer city. When darkness fell, 16 hours of it on this last day of the month, I went completely still. I masked my presence so well that people walked right past me without noticing. 12 hours passed safely. Then I heard it. Those impossibly heavy footsteps, accompanied by dragging chains. The Wanderer was close. My hiding spot had been good, but 16 hours was too long to stay hidden forever. I wasn't panicking, though. I'd memorized the outer city's layout during the day. I navigated away from the Wanderer using memory alone, heading the opposite direction from those heavy footsteps. Somewhere in the darkness, screams echoed. Someone else wasn't so lucky. After 2 agonizing hours, I made it to dawn. The red sky returned, and I exhaled with relief. The Wanderer had come close, but never found me. I noticed something strange: no corpses anywhere. The Wanderers must take the bodies with them. No free loot. That soured my mood. The first day of the new month was brutal. Much stronger fighters were out, and killing them took far more time and energy. Around midday, I ran into a woman wearing a silver mask. Even without seeing her face, her build and presence screamed beauty. We fought for a full 30 minutes without either of us gaining an edge, the longest fight I'd had in this place. "Let's stop," I said. "We're both strong. No point killing each other when there are easier targets around." Her voice surprised me. Light and pleasant, not cold at all. She thought about it, agreed, and walked away. Month 2 ended with 2,804 death energy, even more than the first month. After conversion, my total gains were enormous. Strength 104, Agility 109, Constitution 113, Spirit 105, plus 1 lightning talent, 1 luck point, and 3 sword talent points. My sword talent hit 20, which triggered a breakthrough. My thunder sword technique jumped to level 5, and my combat power skyrocketed. In the outer city, I stopped being cautious. I just cut down whoever I saw. The wild thunder body shaking art reached level 2, which boosted all my base stats significantly. Everything was accelerating. After surviving the second sweep day and the Wanderers, I ran into the silver-masked girl again. This time she was badly hurt, a deep wound through her abdomen that looked like it came from claws, not a weapon. Probably a Wanderer. She recognized me and attacked immediately, but she was too weakened. I disarmed her in one exchange. She looked desperate, like she thought she was about to die. "You're here for training too, right?" I said. She paused, then nodded. "I'll spare you and bring you back to the inner city. But remember, you owe me a favor." She was shocked. The truth was, killing her wasn't worth much. She probably had almost no death energy, and her wounds suggested she'd been injured since last night. But I also wanted something from her. "Why should I trust you?" she asked. "Because I could kill you right now without any effort. I don't need tricks." She went quiet. Eventually she muttered, "Thanks. Don't thank me. Give me a glorious grade piece of equipment as payment. And you still owe me a favor." She couldn't argue with the logic. Trading one piece of gear for her life was a bargain. She angrily pulled a ring off her finger and tossed it to me. "What does this ring do?" The ring she gave me was called the Scale Armor Ring. It could block 3 attacks below level 80 per day, 5 seconds each, and had 10 cubic meters of storage space. Excellent for survival. She'd clearly used it to escape the Wanderer. I could tell she had more treasures on her, and for a moment I considered taking them by force. But I let the thought go. We walked back to the inner city together, and I left her there to go hunt more. Back at the Pope's hall, the Pope was worried about me. He told Ilya he shouldn't have agreed to send me to the death prison. Ilya reassured him. "With the shadow watching over me and my current strength, I could handle it." The Pope worried I might develop psychological problems from the constant killing, but Ilya reminded him of my childhood. Someone who grew up the way I did wouldn't break easily. Privately, though, she was worried too. What neither of them knew was that by my 3rd month, I was dominating the prison. The only place I hadn't tried was the dueling arena, where victory brought special rewards beyond death energy, but losing meant actual death, with no option to run. I decided against it. The outer city was dangerous, but at least I could retreat. I'd come back to this place someday. Then everything got harder. Someone leaked that I was only staying 3 months before leaving. The news spread like wildfire. Every long-term prisoner knew they were just resources for training geniuses like me, and they hated us for it. Overnight, I became the most wanted person in the entire prison. If I stepped outside, half the population would hunt me down. I traced the leak to the thin man, my so-called information broker. When I confronted him, he just smiled and said, "That information costs 1,000 death energy. I didn't pay." But from that moment, he was my enemy. I memorized everything about him. His face, build, mannerisms, even how his presence felt. He might be using disguises. Someday I'd settle this. I stopped hunting and switched to training inside the inner city. I had enough death energy saved to survive the remaining time. But there was one massive problem. On sweep day, everyone gets forced out of the inner city. I'd be thrown into the open in front of every person who wanted me dead. After thinking it through carefully, I came up with a plan. I'd leave the inner city before sweep day started, on my own terms. And instead of staying in the outer city where everyone would be hunting me, I'd head straight for the outermost forest where the beasts lived. The forest outside had beasts I could hunt for food. I planned to leave the inner city at night, 2 days before sweep day, so I'd only need to survive 2 nights outside. 2 days later, the silver-masked girl found me. This time, I was the one looking rough. "You look terrible lately," she said. "And you seem fine. Healed up already?" She hadn't come to mock me. She wanted to repay her debt. "I can give you shelter and food. And I can disguise you so nobody recognizes you." That sounded useful. "Let's try it." I followed her to her place, a fully enclosed room, not the usual iron bar cell. Much more private, and 3 times the rent. She used water magic to clean me up. As the blood and grime washed away, she seemed surprised at what was underneath. "Wait, I have a new idea," she said. "I got a bad feeling." She cleaned me up completely, then started working on my appearance. Without a mirror, I had no idea what she was doing until she pulled out perfume. That's when I snapped. "Let me see what I look like." She hesitated. "You sure?" She handed me a mirror. Staring back at me was a delicate, lightly made-up face that looked feminine, undeniably pretty, and undeniably not what I'd expected. My hands started shaking. She burst out laughing. Couldn't stop. "Isn't this perfect for you?" She leaned her masked face next to mine in the mirror. We looked like sisters. I was clearly the younger one. "Now let's fix your clothes too." She took one of my outfits and quickly altered it into a crop top. "Go change. I want to see." I went to the corner to change, but she was staring right at me. "Turn around. What if you attack me when my back is turned?" "Turn around, or I'll make you turn around." She reluctantly turned, then immediately spun back. "If you need help." I'd already changed. She was stunned at how fast I was, then stunned again at how I looked. According to her, the overall effect was devastatingly pretty, the kind that would outshine most actual women. "So, how is it? Do I look weird?" She shook her head quickly. "Not weird at all. Beautiful. Just be careful outside. People might try to grab you. And change your weapon. Don't use a sword. It's too recognizable." I exhaled with relief. At least the disguise worked. As for making a new weapon, that was easy for someone with my forging skills. I pulled out the star-plucking furnace and started forging right there in the masked girl's room. She watched curiously as my demeanor completely shifted the moment I picked up my hammer. I crafted a dragon-patterned spear, an 11 times refined magic-grade weapon. Not as strong as Lightning Fong, but good enough, and it wouldn't give away my identity. I also told Zilin to stay hidden since people had seen the snake before. We decided to wait until the next day to enter the inner city pretending I was a newcomer. That night, I planned to leave the city an hour before dawn to minimize risk. But my luck ran out. The moment I stepped outside, I heard those heavy footsteps. I tried to lose the Wanderer, but it kept tracking me. On sweep day, there were so many people outside that Wanderers got distracted easily. Tonight, I was basically alone. There was nobody else to draw its attention. I had to fight. It closed in. I could smell the rotting stench before I could see anything. I drew Lightning Fong and slashed forward in the darkness. The blade sank into something. I surged lightning through the strike, and the brief flash of light showed me what I was facing. A mountain of flesh. Its body was made of countless rotting limbs and body parts stitched together. Not truly alive, just an abomination of decaying meat. Like something out of a nightmare. I pulled Lightning Fong out, and the wound started healing instantly. Cutting attacks were useless. I wrapped the blade in Thunder Rage Flame. The blue fire lit up the area, and the Wanderer actually stepped back. Fire was its weakness, but light attracts more Wanderers. I'd seen someone try using fire on sweep day and get swarmed. I heard roars in the distance. I had to finish this fast. I attacked with fire-coated strikes. The flames burned away its rotting flesh, and it started shrinking. But then it hit me, just once. I went flying. The speed wasn't impressive, but the raw power was overwhelming. Even with my stats over 400, I couldn't compete with its strength. Now I understood how the masked girl had gotten that horrible wound. After being knocked back, I noticed something worse. The wounded Wanderer was absorbing the bloodstains from the ground to regenerate. It was passive, it didn't even need to stop moving. No wonder minutes of burning hadn't killed it. I'd been making progress, but it was healing at the same time. I couldn't keep this fight going. I needed to disengage. Now, I threw a ball of Thunder Rage Flame at the Wanderer and ran. It chased me, but dawn was close. The moment red light appeared in the sky, the wanderer stopped instantly and turned away. I briefly considered following it to find where these things came from, but immediately killed that thought. Way too suicidal. I found the path that new inmates follow into the inner city and waited. When the masked guide came through with fresh arrivals, I slipped into the group behind them. The guide noticed me but said nothing. As long as I didn't attack the newcomers, she didn't care. Walking into the inner city in my disguise, I felt those hungry stares again. But this time they were different, filled with desire. Within minutes, some filthy, ugly man walked up and started sniffing me. Then he reached out his grimy hand. Feisty little thing. Let me see if the body matches the face. I slapped him so hard he hit the ground, twitched a few times, and started foaming at the mouth. That scared off the weaker ones, but the strong ones just got more interested. One of the most powerful fighters in the prison, a man with an insane win streak in the dueling arena, approached me next. I'll give you a chance. Please me, and I'll protect you. I turned and walked away without a word. He smiled at my back. A woman with spirit. I like that. The harassment kept coming all day. It was exhausting and disgusting. I finally understood what beautiful women go through. It's not just annoying, it's revolting. But it also gave me an idea. These men were so desperate that I could potentially make them fight each other over me. And then later, reveal I was a man the whole time. Just imagining their faces made me grin. Then I ran into the thin information broker. He stared at me for a long time, clearly unsure. What are you looking at? I snapped, perfectly playing the role of a girl tired of being ogled. And nothing. You're just very beautiful. He looked genuinely struck. For the first time, he seemed flustered. He chased after me offering free information. The same guy who'd charged me for everything and then betrayed my secret. Funny how a pretty face changes things. I walked away without engaging. He didn't follow, afraid of pushing too hard. Good boy. I rented a fully enclosed room like the masked girls, pretending it was my first time here. She and I acted like strangers. The next day, I went out hunting as usual, earning death energy under my new identity. I was using a spear now instead of a sword. I'd never learned any spear techniques, but honestly, it didn't matter. My stats were so high I could just overpower everyone with brute force. My first opponent reacted fast when I attacked, raising his weapon to block. My spear smashed straight through his weapon and split him in two. The ground cracked from the impact. Looking at the body cut perfectly down the middle, I realized that didn't really look like spear damage. I'd need to stab more and slash less if I wanted my disguise to hold. The second target didn't even see me coming. One thrust, and my spear went clean through him. The spear actually felt pretty natural. I designed the tip like a short sword, bigger than a normal spearhead, so I could use it almost like a blade if needed. Just slightly less comfortable than lightning fang. I ran into a group of 3 next. They saw me and grinned with obvious intentions. I smiled back. "Wanna play?" They exchanged knowing looks and were about to say something sleazy when my spear punched through the first one's throat. The other 2 tried to fight back, but one horizontal sweep took both their heads off along with their weapons. The wall behind them got a deep gash too. These were all newcomers, 0 challenge. A tracking team found the aftermath later. Their scout examined the scene and concluded, 1 versus 3. Total domination. The attacker used a spear but with terrible technique, pure brute force. This person is basically a human monster. We can't beat them. Let's go. Near the end of the day, I encountered a real threat. A massive, scarred man I'd seen survive the dueling arena. He licked his lips when he saw me and walked over. He was a sadist who enjoyed breaking people. I didn't hesitate. My spear shot forward. The impact forced him backward despite his blocking with his axe. I kept thrusting. Basic attacks, nothing fancy. And he couldn't fight back at all. Every hit was fast and devastatingly powerful. Wait. Spare me. I'll be your dog. I didn't stop. His axe cracked, then shattered. My spear went into his body. I stabbed him over a dozen times before he finally dropped. He was tougher than most, but still not enough. Even so, I wasn't going to the dueling arena. This guy had clearly been weakened by old injuries. That scar running across his skull probably affected his performance. Some of the real arena fighters were definitely stronger than me. Better to play it safe and keep hunting outside. The rest of the month went smoothly. The daily routine of washing off blood and reapplying my disguise was annoying, but it worked. On the last day, all my death energy converted to stats again. My final attributes: Strength 566, Agility 548, Constitution 574, Spirit 541. Everything had only gone up by about 60 this time. After breaking past 500 in all stats, the growth rate nearly halved. Death energy was becoming less efficient. 3 months was clearly the right amount of time to spend here. Any longer, and the returns would keep shrinking. I survived the final night, changed back into my normal clothes, and the masked guide appeared. "Follow me. Your sentence is over." The inmates glared at me as I walked out, furious that I got to leave. But with the guide beside me, nobody dared attack. Somewhere in the crowd, the silver-masked girl watched me go. When the prison doors opened, sunlight blasted my eyes. Ilya was waiting outside. She froze when she saw me. I was smiling at her, a bright, warm smile, but she looked unsettled. She told me later that my smile felt wrong, like I could be grinning while driving a blade through her throat. The warmth on the surface couldn't hide the coldness underneath. She remembered her own experience leaving the death prison years ago. She'd been consumed by killing intent for 3 years afterward, nearly murdering anyone who annoyed her slightly. She thought I might be even worse. "Long time no see, Ilya. Take me home." My voice sounded perfectly normal, which only worried her more. We flew back on the Silver Dragon. As the prison's stench faded and clean air filled my lungs, I finally felt alive again. But I couldn't relax. 3 months of constant vigilance had rewired me. I was alert every second, even sitting on a dragon thousands of feet in the air. When Holy Light City appeared below us, it felt like coming home. But my body stayed tense. Ilya said goodbye. She had her own business to attend to, and we'd meet again soon. Walking through the streets, people instinctively backed away from me. My appearance was striking as ever, but the thick smell of blood and the killing intent radiating off me overwhelmed everything else. Ordinary people's first reaction was pure fear. At the Pope's Hall, even the guard hesitated before letting me in. He recognized my face but couldn't believe I was the same elegant marquis from before, clothes torn, reeking of blood, eyes like something that crawled out of hell. The Pope looked at me and smiled. "You've clearly grown a lot in 3 months. Take a week to rest. After that, there's a military recruitment. You'll go through an elite soldier selection process, and they'll assign you based on your performance." "Yes, Your Holiness. Any questions?" "What does the selection test involve?" "I can't tell you in advance. You'll find out when you get there." He paused, studying me carefully. "Clan, are you tired?" The Pope asked if I was tired. I thought about it, and honestly answered no. My life felt full and meaningful, even if I hadn't taken a single real day off since arriving at the church. When I got home, Milia opened the door and froze. She'd been waiting 3 months, opening the door herself every time hoping it would be me. "Master," her voice was shaking. "It's me. Prepare hot water and food." I sank into the bathtub, and my body finally relaxed. Lin crawled out and started guarding the perimeter. It had done this every night in the death prison, watching over me while I slept. Even with Lin's protection, I'd never truly rested well in that place. After washing away 3 months of grime, I looked like my old self again, maybe even better. But the dangerous aura around me hadn't faded. Over dinner, Milia asked if I'd be leaving again. In about a week. She looked disappointed but quickly composed herself. If she only had a week, she'd make the most of it. I spent the first day just trying to relax, which was harder than it sounds. My body wanted to stay alert every second. But I knew that constant tension was just wasted energy with no benefit. On the second day, I visited Viscount Robinson, the merchant I'd met at Duke Charles's banquet. His shop was smaller than I expected. "I need a lightning attribute or capable of forging glorious grade equipment." Today, Robinson's eyes went wide. He immediately understood what this meant. I could now forge glorious grade weapons. Even the guild president had taken 3 years to reach that level. I'd been forging for less than a year. "I have exactly what you need. A Black Iron Thunder Oregon got it just last month." I'd already checked with the Blacksmith Guild, but they'd run out of suitable lightning ores after 4 new master-level smiths appeared during my absence, 2 of whom were lightning type. So Robinson was my only option, and he came through. He ran to his basement and came back with a large chest. Inside was the ore, dark blue-black, but I could feel the lightning energy pulsing inside it. The ore looked excellent. When I asked the price, Robinson smiled and said it was a gift, no charge. I was surprised. You're serious? Completely. I could see he meant it. So I accepted, and in return I promised to forge him one glorious grade weapon for free in the future. He'd just need to provide the materials. He was thrilled. Glorious weapons were nearly impossible for someone at his level to get. The few master smiths around were booked solid by powerful clients, and a viscount like him had no chance of getting on the list. I went home and spent 3 full days in the forging room. When I finally walked out, I was holding the upgraded lightning fong, now 5 meters long and 1.5 meters wide. A true greatsword. It had consumed the entire Black Iron Thunder, or plus a huge amount of basic materials. But it worked. Lightning fong was now a glorious grade weapon. I went straight to the blacksmith guild to test it. Cora was excited to see me and immediately asked to see the new weapon. When I pulled it out, her eyes went wide. That's glorious grade. I asked for a test target. The guild president, Master Gugong, and others all came running when they heard the news. I lifted Lightning Fong and brought it down on a solid iron plate 1 meter thick. One slash, one massive boom. The plate split apart like tofu. A visible sword energy wave cut clean through it. Everyone was stunned. This was undeniable proof of a glorious grade weapon. The president was almost shouting with joy. Clan, forging a glorious grade weapon means you're officially a forging master now, the youngest in the entire forging world. I'll issue your medal and announce it immediately. Meanwhile, I caught Dilong watching from the doorway. He looked terrified. He was probably remembering our 3-year bet. Only 6 months had passed, and I was already at this level. He couldn't even meet my eyes. I wasn't actually looking at him, but he didn't know that. Cora was dazed too. She'd always known I was talented, but becoming a forging master this fast was beyond anything she could process. The news spread through the entire church within days. I spent my remaining rest time actually relaxing, and apparently doing a remarkable job of it. When Ilya saw me a week later, she was shocked at how much my killing intent had faded. It had taken her 3 years to recover emotionally after the death prison. I'd managed it in 1 week. She studied me with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. Emotional control was a fundamental skill for any truly powerful person, and I demonstrated it at a level she didn't think was possible. All right, she said. Let me take you to the elite soldier selection. If you perform well enough, you might get assigned directly to the Judgment Corps. The Judgment Corps, the church's legendary elite force. Every member was either a top fighter or a genius among geniuses. Getting in was exactly my goal. I will join the Judgment Corps, I told Ilya. She believed me. She could tell I'd gotten much stronger, but didn't know the full extent yet. She'd find out during the test. We flew on the Silver Dragon to a dense forest. Church territory filled with beasts up to Tier 6. This was where the first round would take place. Ilya dropped me into the crowd of candidates. My marquee badge immediately drew attention. Most people couldn't quite place my face since I'd been away for months, but a few recognized me and rushed over. Your marquee clan? The one who beat the Saintus? The youngest forging master? I nodded. Everyone started trying to get close to me, but I was already scanning the crowd with the sharp instincts I'd developed in the death prison. Nobody here was a real threat. A massive, stone-faced military officer appeared and silenced everyone with 2 coughs. First test begins now. Line up for your iron tokens. These track your points in real time. You'll be randomly scattered throughout this forest. Earn points by defeating opponents and stealing their token points, or by killing beasts. If you face danger you can't handle, inject magic into the token for rescue. After 7 days, the top 500 advance. Simple rules, but 7 days in a beast-filled forest was brutal. Surviving alone would be a challenge for most. Several people approached me about forming a team, offering me 50% of all group points. I turned them down flat. They'd only slow me down, and splitting points made 0 sense when the gap between us was this wide. I work alone. They looked disappointed. Then the moment I turned away, I heard them muttering insults behind my back. I didn't care. A giant magic circle appeared overhead, and people started vanishing one by one, teleported to random spots in the forest. When it was my turn, I found myself in a corner surrounded by identical-looking trees. Zelin slithered out and started scanning the area. Almost immediately, it locked onto something to the front left. Enemy detected. I pulled Lightning Fong from my spatial ring. Too massive to carry normally, since the blade would drag on the ground or catch on every tree. With the enormous sword in hand, I charged toward the target. Whatever was there let out an angry roar. My first target was a Tier 3 gray wolf. It sensed the danger and tried to flee, but Lightning Fang came down and split it clean in two. My score jumped to 20 points, 10 base plus 10 from the kill. Zilin casually slithered over and swallowed both halves of the wolf in 2 bites. Somehow its body didn't even bulge, like the food just disappeared into a black hole. I kept hunting. A level 57 forest giant ape charged at me next, swinging its fist down with everything it had. I just held Lightning Fang in front of me like a shield. The punch hit the blade with a massive bang, but I didn't move an inch. It was like being scratched. I'd completely outclassed it in raw power. When it tried to run, I brought the sword down and cut it in half like butter. No resistance at all. Zilin rushed over and devoured the body. Then it looked at me with a meaningful expression. I could sense what it wanted to tell me. "You're ready to evolve?" It nodded eagerly. "All right, go rest." I put Zilin back in its beast pouch to evolve in peace. Without Zilin's danger detection, my hunting should have slowed down. Instead, I sped up. I tore through the forest at full speed, killing every beast I encountered in seconds. 3 hours in, I'd apparently wiped out 90% of all beasts and contestants in my entire zone. My score had reached 290,000 points. Second place had barely broken 10,000. Ilya was watching everything through surveillance crystals. She was genuinely shocked. She'd expected me to be stronger, but not this much stronger. Casually overpowering beasts in raw strength, swinging a glorious grade weapon for hours without showing any fatigue. None of it matched her expectations. She told her staff to notify me the next day to stop killing beasts and only eliminate other contestants. They needed to protect the forest's monster population from me. The staff member couldn't believe that was a real order. Once I noticed my area was mostly empty, I slowed down and started walking casually. My score was already more than enough. Then I heard rapid footsteps. 3 young fighters came sprinting toward me with over a dozen bull-type beasts chasing them. "Run!" they shouted at me. The 3 guys ran past me screaming to flee. I just smiled and stood my ground. When they grabbed my arm trying to drag me along, I told them to keep running. Lightning Fang appeared in my hand, and I sent one massive slash forward. The sword energy cut through trees like paper and wiped out half the bull herd instantly. The rest were crippled. The 3 of them stopped dead, turned around, and walked back toward me in a daze. They recognized me then. "You're Lord Clan?" "Yes." "Now hand over your points." Their faces went white, but they cooperated. I took their scores and left. At least they'd been decent enough to warn me earlier, and losing points wasn't elimination, just a reset. They could still recover. By the end of day 1, I'd been steamrolling everything. No opponent lasted more than 1 hit. I wanted to find a Tier 6 beast just to have a real fight. Then a staff member flew down to me with an unusual request. "Lord Clan, you've killed so many beasts that you're disrupting the ecological balance. Could you please stop hunting monsters and just target other contestants instead?" I couldn't help but laugh internally. An anti-farming restriction? Seriously? "Fine," I said. That night was eerily quiet. I'd killed most of the beasts in the area. I slept in a tall tree, staying alert since Zilin was still evolving inside its pouch. The next morning, I checked on Zilin. It had started shedding its skin. I stuffed extra beast meat into the pouch in case it woke up hungry. Then I switched to hunting people. Day 2, I eliminated 2,000 contestants out of the 3,421 total eliminations. Day 3, 2,500. Day 4, 2,700. On day 5, the test was called off early. Only 500 contestants remained, the exact number needed to advance. I'd single-handedly eliminated over 70% of all participants. At the gathering point, everyone stared at the scoreboard in stunned silence. My final score, 3,174,000 points. Second place had about 80,000. That was nearly a 40 times gap. The previous all-time record for this test had been around 1 million points. I'd tripled it. And the only reason I didn't score higher was because they'd literally run out of beasts and people for me to fight. If they hadn't restricted me from killing monsters on day 1, I could have wiped the entire forest clean within the 7 days. My performance in the exam was so dominant that they had to make a special announcement. The examiner said I'd eliminated 70% of the participants by myself, creating a huge gap between me and everyone else. Because of that, they promoted me directly into the Judgment Legion, skipping the remaining tests. The vice commander of the Judgment Legion, Picro, had come to watch my footage personally. He seemed very pleased with what he saw. Most people accepted the decision. If someone like me doesn't get special treatment, who should? A few sore losers grumbled about it, but nobody paid them any attention. Picro introduced himself and told me to call him Big Brother Picro in private. He said my lightning attribute armor would be delivered to my home within 5 days, and I should report for duty wearing it after that. Not bad, 5 days off. Meanwhile, I found out later that Ilya had been interrogating Shadow about everything I did in death prison. Apparently, she expected me to barely survive in there, and was shocked to hear I'd been tearing through the place. Shadow told her everything. I didn't waste my 5 days. I kept up my daily training and spent most of my time at the Blacksmith Guild. I refined Thunder Fong 2 more times, bringing it from 7 refinements to 9. It shrank a little from the extra refining, but it still looked impressively oversized. On the 4th day, Duke Charles sent someone to invite me over. Since I didn't have time for another refinement anyway, I agreed and headed to the Duke's mansion. When I arrived, instead of meeting the Duke first, I was brought straight to Nina. I immediately understood what was going on. The Duke wanted me to spend time with her before I left. Nina froze when she saw me, then her face lit up. She looked flustered, her voice a little too loud, a little shaky. She told me I'd gotten even more handsome and must be breaking hearts everywhere. Her face turned bright red just from our normal conversation, and she couldn't hide her excitement at all. The butler watching from a distance looked like he didn't know what to do with her. The butler seemed happy seeing Nina so excited. Apparently, she hadn't been this cheerful in a long time. After we chatted for a while, Nina finally worked up the courage to ask if I'd be staying in the Holy City. I told her I'd enlisted in the military and would be spending most of my time there from now on. She looked disappointed for a moment but quickly recovered, saying someone as talented as me would definitely make a name for myself in the army. She suggested we take a walk since Duke Charles was still busy. I knew this was exactly why the Duke had invited me over, so I figured I'd go along with it. We strolled through the Duke's garden, which was enormous, about the size of a football field, practically a small forest. There was a beautiful lake in the center filled with ornamental fish and rare flowers everywhere. The magic concentration here was noticeably denser than other places. I made a mental note to build something similar for myself someday. Training here would be incredibly efficient. While I was admiring the scenery, Nina suddenly said she had something for me and pulled out a jade pendant. One glance told me this wasn't ordinary. I tried to refuse. It was too valuable. She got anxious and said it was just a protective charm, and she hoped it would keep me safe during my military service. I hesitated. I understood that accepting this gift was almost like accepting a love token. Was I ready to commit to Nina? Not really. She must have read my expression because she quickly added that it was just a blessing between friends and asked me not to feel any pressure. Looking at her eyes, so desperate they were almost teary, I gave in and accepted it. I figured I'd give her something of equal value next time. I also couldn't help imagining what it might be like if we did get married someday. Me out fighting, her managing the household. Honestly, it didn't sound bad. She stepped close to put the pendant on me. I bent my head down because of the height difference. We were so close she could feel my breath. Once it was on, the pendant felt cool and comfortable against my skin, and I could sense it drawing on my magic. This thing was probably even more precious than I'd first thought. Afterward, we walked around Holy Light City for a while. The commoners were smart enough not to cause trouble around someone like Nina, a high-ranking noble. But she seemed surprised by some things about me, like how I naturally stepped aside for common people or helped them out. She didn't realize it, but that's just who I am. No matter what world I'm in, deep down I'm still a modern person. My values have taken some hits since coming here, but they haven't turned me into some bully. When we got back, I finally met Duke Charles. Seeing us return together, he gave a sly smile and teased Nina about how maybe he should have made his meeting run longer. Nina's face went red instantly. He pushed further and asked me what I thought of her. I stroked my chin seriously and said, Nina would make an excellent wife. Nina practically exploded with happiness. Charles sighed internally at how innocent his little sister was. Then he told Nina to head back to her room. He had important things to discuss with me. After Nina left, Duke Charles got straight to the point and asked if I'd consider marrying his sister. He'd sent her away first in case I refused. He didn't want her to be heartbroken. He also noticed the jade pendant on my chest and realized Nina had given me something their mother had given her. She really did like me that much. I thought about it and told him I wasn't ready to think about marriage yet. I'd come find him once I figured things out. He wasn't entirely satisfied with that answer. He couldn't tell if I was rejecting the idea or genuinely putting it off. Apparently, I was the first young person whose thoughts he couldn't read at all. Then he mentioned something else. He had a younger brother named Wyndon serving in the Judgment Legion and suggested I connect with him for support. I understood what he really meant. He wanted me to form a faction around his brother. I agreed easily enough. I'd see what kind of person this brother was first. Back home, I examined the jade pendant more carefully. The more I studied it, the more impressive it seemed. It had the ability to purify the wearer's magic, which would be very beneficial with long-term use. There seemed to be other effects too, but I couldn't figure them out yet. That evening, my Judgment Legion armor arrived. It was gold and white with a lion-shaped helmet, beautifully crafted. When I put it on, all my attributes surged dramatically, far beyond what my old lightning pattern armor series could do. I determined it was a full hero grade set with a synergy bonus. Wearing the complete set pushed its power to peak hero grade, nearly reaching glorious grade. And this was apparently just the basic armor. There was an even stronger glorious set available after earning merits. I admired myself in the mirror for a moment, feeling pretty good. Then I sensed something and quickly let Purple scale out. She had changed enormously. Her white scales were gone, replaced by a deep ink green color, beautiful like green agate. 2 small horns had appeared on her head. Her scales were sharper and more menacing, and her eyes looked fiercer. She'd grown to about 7 meters long and was as thick as a small water barrel. She looked genuinely intimidating now. She was still affectionate with me, though, rubbing against me the moment she came out. I petted her head and asked about her new abilities. She told me her body had gotten much stronger, and she could now spit venom with powerful corrosive properties. I tested it by placing an iron plate in front of her. She spat out blue-green venom, and the iron plate sizzled like a frying pan. Then a huge hole ate through it. The corrosion kept spreading until the entire plate and the table beneath it were completely dissolved. I gasped. That was iron, not flesh. If this hit a person, there wouldn't even be bone fragments left. And this was only her first evolution. 5 days later, I arrived at the recruit assembly point with 9 other newcomers. None of them gave me any sense of threat. They were all around the same age and naturally not very strong yet. But when I saw who was in charge of receiving us, I was speechless. It was Ilya. Since when was she part of the Judgment Legion? I remembered the first time I'd met the armored woman. She'd said she held a rank equal to the Pope, but now she appeared to be my squad leader. What was going on? Clan, stop spacing out and get over here, she shouted. I followed Ilya over, and the other 9 recruits kept glancing at me. They'd all witnessed my performance during the first exam, so they knew exactly how strong I was. We arrived at the Judgment Legion grounds, and I immediately locked my eyes on the Legion commander. I couldn't believe it. She was wearing the exact same armor as that armored woman I'd met before. But wait, Ilya was standing right there too. They couldn't be the same person if they were both here at the same time. Then the commander spoke, and her voice was identical to the armored woman's. So Ilya really wasn't the armored woman after all. My mind was a mess. The commander laid out the rules. The Judgment Legion always maintains around 1,000 members. Every month there's an evaluation, and the bottom 10 get kicked out and sent down to the Silver Dragon Legion. In exchange, the top 10 from Silver Dragon get promoted up. New members get a 3-month protection period. We'd still be ranked, but we couldn't be eliminated. After month 4, we'd be treated the same as veterans. The other recruits looked horrified. Catching up to the Legion's overall level in just 3 months seemed impossible given how talented everyone here was. The commander explained that most of our operations would be squad-based assassination missions, since we all had strong individual combat abilities. But teamwork mattered too. The Legion's ultimate formation, the Judgment Angel, required perfect coordination from everyone to reach its full power. Then came our first training session, and I froze when I saw what it was. It was the exact same training Ilya had put me through before, so she'd been training me like a Judgment Legion soldier this whole time. No wonder it had felt so brutal back then. The others started at double gravity and found it manageable, so most of them jumped straight to triple. I smirked. They'd regret that soon enough. I walked directly into the 4 times gravity room, which made everyone stare. But after a short while I walked back out and went into the 5 times room instead. For times was just too easy now, like double gravity used to be. 5 times gave me a bit of pressure, so I settled in there. A few of the female recruits started taking notice of me, thinking that getting close to me might be a fast track to success. Ilya was watching from a distance, frowning. She could tell my average stats were definitely above 500 now, and she couldn't figure out how I'd improved so much. Even tearing through death prison shouldn't have produced gains this big. Meanwhile, the recruits who'd picked triple gravity were falling apart after just half an hour, their limbs aching and swollen. Some of them looked over at me hoping to see me struggling too, but I was still swinging my sword like it was nothing. Once again, they felt the gap between us. By the end of the day, I was the only one who completed the full training, and at several times the intensity of everyone else. The rest of them collapsed like dead dogs. Ilya looked at them with ice-cold eyes and said, "What a bunch of trash. Even compared to previous recruit classes, you're the worst. You might as well go home and drink milk. I can't wait to watch you all get thrown out after 4 months." Some of the recruits couldn't believe what they were hearing. When they'd first seen Ilya, a lot of them had been smitten. She was incredibly beautiful and talented. They'd been thrilled to be assigned under her. But now she was tearing into them like this, and a few of them wanted to stand up and argue. They were all prodigies. They'd never been insulted like this before. One of the recruits couldn't take Ilya's insults and talked back, saying the training was impossible for normal people. Ilya shut him down immediately. "If you're in the Judgment Legion and still measuring yourself by normal standards, you don't belong here." She released a wave of pressure so intense they could barely breathe, then walked away without another glance. This was the real Ilya. She'd only been nice to me because I was actually impressive. For everyone else, she was cold and arrogant. After she left, that guy came to me with a face full of resentment and tried to use me as his weapon. He asked me to go teach Ilya a lesson, saying I shouldn't tolerate being humiliated like that. His real plan was obvious. He either wanted me to pick a fight with Ilya and get beaten down, or he wanted me to do his dirty work. Pathetic scheming. I just looked at him, almost amused. He got uncomfortable under my gaze but kept pushing, trying to get the others to back him up. The rest of the recruits immediately threw him under the bus. "Don't drag us into this. We never said anything like that. Clan can do whatever he wants." They practically wanted to rip their hearts out to show me they weren't on this guy's side. Then some girl chimed in with the classic move, telling me I should be generous, that the guy was just trying to stand up for everyone, that I shouldn't make things difficult. As if I'd stepped on something disgusting, and now there were flies buzzing on top of it. I told the man I knew exactly what he was thinking. Then I told the girl to stop being disgusting. My mood was ruined because of them, so I gave them a simple choice: slap each other in the face until I was satisfied, and I'd consider forgiving them. They both froze, then got angry. The man said I was abusing my status. The girl called me petty and said small-minded men were the most disgusting thing in the world. The other 7 recruits sucked in a breath. These 2 idiots could clearly see I was already furious, and they were still provoking me. Several of them quietly stepped back to avoid getting blood on themselves. Without any warning, I kicked the man square in the chest. He flew backward, slammed into the wall, slid to the ground, and coughed up a mouthful of blood. He looked up at me in terror. He realized that kick could have killed him. I told the girl to slap herself 1,000 times. She stammered an apology, saying she was sorry, that it was her first time doing something like this. I asked if she didn't understand what I just said. She immediately started slapping herself. The sound was pretty crisp. I pointed at one of the other recruits and told him to count for me. He agreed without hesitation. He'd already figured out that in this legion, the last person you want to cross is me. Then I went back to the man and kicked him again in the stomach. Bones cracked. He clutched his belly, but I didn't stop. I kept kicking, his face, his legs, his back. Bruises covered his body. The girl slapping herself saw what was happening and started hitting herself even harder, not daring to slack off. After about half an hour, when the man looked like he was about to die, I finally stopped and walked away. Even after I left, that woman kept slapping herself. She didn't dare slack off. Living in death prison had changed me. After some rest, my personality had softened a bit, but I'd lost some of my respect for life. People who crossed me now, I just didn't care about their futures anymore. By the next day, The whole legion had heard what happened. Some veterans thought I was too arrogant and needed to be taught a lesson, but none of them actually dared to try since I held the rank of Marquis. The guy who tried to provoke me never showed up again. Ilya didn't seem to care. The girl who'd gotten involved was in terrible shape too. She collapsed before finishing training that day. The 1-month adaptation period flew by. Everyone improved a lot, but I improved the most. My average base stats went up another 25 points. I gained 7 points in sword talent, bringing it to 27. My charisma also hit 90, which caused a visible transformation in my appearance and presence. Looking at myself in the mirror, I was so good-looking that even I'd fall for myself if I were a woman. My level had also naturally climbed to 56.